YouTube, go to the bottom, hit the red button that says subscribe. If you guys are on Twitch, it's a purple button that says follow. Do me that favor real quick. Every single episode of this podcast is brought to you by Marco V Cigars, and I want to tell you about their 6-step process, okay? Step 1, from the seeds to the 9-foot tall tobacco plants, every step is monitored by Marco V's agricultural experts. Each tobacco leaf section produces a slightly different flavor, so leaves are harvested in small groups to precisely select the flavor of each cigar. Step 2, leaves from the part of the tobacco plant are hung. God damn it, I can't read, you guys. Step 2 is the curing. Leaves from every part of the tobacco plant are hung in the Dominican and Nicaraguan curing barns. Beginning, the leaves transition into the brown, curled tobacco that you guys see inside of the cigar. Step 3 is the fermentation process. After the curing barns, the leaves are fermented in pylons to remove distracting taste and enhance the purity of the tobacco. The entire process can take up to a year, and that's time well spent in the pursuit of the best cigars in the world. Step 4 is the roll. Each of the cigar rollers has at least 15 years of experience, guaranteeing that your cigar was made by somebody who knows and loves this art. Quality still comes from the hands. Step 5, that's the aging process. Marco V cigars are aged for up to 5 years, allowing for flavors to blend and mature. This final process paves the way for a smooth, unique taste in every Marco V cigar. And finally, it's step 6, the smoke. At long last, the cigars are banded, packed, shipped, and arrive to you to enjoy. Celebrate your triumphs by going to Marco V Cigars and using promo code Extravaganza 15 to save yourself some money. And they always have fast and free shipping as well, you guys. Every episode of this podcast is also brought to you by Tone Vault Audio and Media. Here's the deal. Go to tone-vault.com/JSE and use promo code 15SINGER to save yourself 15% on all their audio products. With them being a sponsor of the podcast, they came in, Matt came down here, helped me rewire my entire system, so everything we're using is Tone Vault products as far as the cables go. Wired up my drum set in the other studio as well, and I couldn't be happier. The quality of these cables is absolutely top-notch. You can compare them to Mogami for a way lower price, and they of course have the same warranty as Mogami as well. So if they stop working, if they get damaged, doesn't matter, call them, they'll take care of you. And boom, there we are. We should be good to go. I got this weird thing going on with my little Stream Decky thing here.
Yeah.
Where I have like 2 different versions of my live production menu.
Okay.
And one of them has this Twitch chat button and one of them doesn't. And I don't really understand how that works.
Is that where you interact with folk?
Yeah, so I can go like this. I can say welcome on screen like that without actually sitting there and typing it in.
I see. Nice.
So yeah,
nice,
we're fucking live. Let me just close up this other thing. Make sure that we got a smooth seas ahead of us. Appreciate you being here, Uncle.
Oh, you kidding me?
Cheers.
Pleasure,
Cheers with the coffees.
Pleasure. Coffee Klutz Blizzard.
On the house from the local holiday gas station.
There she goes. Dropped already.
There's your plug. That's all you get.
I lasted 20 seconds.
With the mask? Well, okay, so what was the joke you wanted to start it off because you thought it was funny?
It's COVID, you know?
Yeah. I mean, what's funny is like how they dictate what constitutes a mask and what doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? They were like, I see a lot of places that are like neck gaiters aren't masks. And it's like, what is the difference between this and that? Well, that's a little thicker.
Exactly.
So it's like, because there's, I don't know.
There's no
it's
side holes to come in or.
Right, but neither is there on a neck gaiter. You know what I mean? But bandanas were okay. That was the other thing. It's like bandanas were okay. And then bandanas weren't okay, but the masks with the holes on the sides, like the cheap blue ones, those ones were okay, even though they had like ports on the side of them, basically. but bandanas weren't. And it was like
Wild West.
It just didn't make any sense, dude.
Yeah, the Wild West. Yeah, all the reminiscing, with the bandanas were all, that's old school Oklahoma cowboy Texas stuff.
Well, I've talked about this on the podcast pretty openly. Did you know it's actually a felony, and I believe it's a federal felony, to wear a mask and carry a gun at the same time? So by instituting mask mandates, by default, they've made any legal gun owner an automatic felon.
Yeah, even wearing a mask into a public store, it used to be because, you don't know who you are. It's easy robbery, But, so yeah,
Trying to conceal your identity.
I'm glad we're rolling out of that era.
It does seem like it, doesn't it?
State by state.
So what do you know about the vaccine passport mandate that got put in place and then got challenged by all the restaurants, and now it's been suspended?
Well, speaking on behalf of all the phony COVID vaccination card manufacturers across the country, they're okay with it. No, just kidding.
No, for real though, I did joke about that.
I know it's not that difficult, but yeah, no. On a serious note, that's the direction things are going. Is to keep people safe. Whether it be a concert venue or primarily should be directed towards indoor stuff, but airlines, that was going to be one of the first ones because we trust that they have modern, up-to-date air circulation units in the planes, but we know corporations skimp areas,
Sure.
But
what's the point? What's the point of a vaccine passport? So you can prove you're vaccinated, so you're allowed to go in, but you could have COVID right now.
Right.
But you have a passport, so you're allowed to go
Well,
through?
international travel is different than local. national travel.
Well, that's what I mean.
But for international, it's pretty, you have
but
to...
I'm not
you
even
have to
talking
go,
about traveling. I'm just talking about going to the restaurant, going to the
like
to
they
the
are
bar.
in Europe. Yeah, that's going on in Europe right now.
That's what they tried to do in Minneapolis, and it got challenged.
Yeah.
And now it's already been banned.
Right.
You can't do that
Right.
here. And I think that's the truth. What do you think? Do you think you can legally require somebody to prove vaccination, or do you think that's a medical privacy issue?
I think it's a voluntary thing that if businesses choose to do it, they can ask for it. But at the end of the day, they should not deny you service.
Right. But when we're talking about legislatively,
I think this process will come and go before any legislative arm gets around it. If it hasn't done via mandates, because that's where government would probably weigh in one way, place or another, and it's been challenged in a variety of areas in society. And like I said, I'm just glad as the people in Canada are that we're the numbers are coming down, and numbers will tell you everything, and they will lead our actions, as civilians in society.
Yeah, I'm with you. If a business wants to require vaccination proof, fine. I think you're an idiot because it doesn't mean anything, right? I really think you're kind of a stupid person if you're requiring proof of vaccination to enter your business. I think that's foolish because that person could have either a fraudulent vaccination card, right? So unless we're going to do something irrational, but I even think the idea is irrational because in and of itself, it's irrational because, again, that person could have COVID with the vaccination. So you're not actually doing anything with these cards. And I could be a perfectly healthy person, and maybe I have natural immunities, maybe I never got it, whatever, doesn't matter. But you're just going to alienate half your business. I thought, in my mind, from my experience, doing business and doing sales, it's hard.
Right.
I'm not trying to immediately alienate any of my audience because, you see what I'm saying? I don't know. It just does. But if you want to as a business, you have that right. I just draw the line immediately at legislation. I'm not okay with the government getting involved and enforcing shit like that.
Right. On the practical side, it's your antibodies and your immune systems that are levels that are really important. And instead of getting COVID tests and all this money in testing, to see if you have it, they should be able to monitor those levels in your body, whether you've been vaccinated or you're half vaccinated or whatever level you may be at, because it's those levels, those antibody levels, that can fight off any of these viruses that may come and go. Yeah,
and it seems like the companies that are doing the greatest lockdowns, like the strictest version of the lockdowns, they're having the worst times of it.
Right. Well, it's hard to do business, Sabathani Community Center, I sat on that board for 15 plus years, and just to COVID was real hard on them. They lost all their tenants in the building, and now have to kind of bring back tenants into the building, which is their bread and butter over there. And it's hard when you have to enforce these draconian rules and practices and policies, particularly from the city.
So how did it specifically? So I'm curious about that. So with the community center down there, you guys were renting out spaces.
Yeah, they lease.
And that's how the community center makes some money,
right?
And so, what does the community center spend that money on specifically? So basically, how was the community center directly
Food
affected?
shelf. They have a senior program. They partner with educational arms, alternative schools that may office in the building. They pay the bills of the building, and the salaries of the staff, and the work that they do.
And so the community center in and of itself, do they even have to pay property taxes, or is that part of the fact that it's a community center? So they just got a
nonprofit,
right? So it's a nonprofit, so they don't pay property taxes, right? As a community
Oh,
center.
I believe so.
Oh, they do still.
I'm not 100% sure, but I believe so.
You believe they do still pay property taxes? See, and I'm just curious as to
I don't know what rate, but
gotcha.
And
I'm just curious how that works, because it's like, it seems like they shouldn't pay property taxes, right?
right, but
And-
they occupy a lot of land as
right,
well.
but it's a community center. It's supposed to be a public use space, right? Like, we're paying for that as the community, as the literal residents of the neighborhoods and surrounding areas. It doesn't seem like the city should try, because it's the same thing. Like, so if the city owns a rental property like they do across the street, a duplex, is the city paying property taxes to themselves? Which actually, technically, I think you pay your property taxes to the county, don't you? Yeah, you do. So maybe they do.
The water.
Maybe they do.
They
pay
get
the
their money
property
through the
taxes
water
too.
bills.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
okay, so by losing tenants, they
They lose revenue.
they
the
lose
building.
revenue for programs like the food shelf, the senior program. What does the
Right.
senior program do?
They work with seniors. They give them space to hang out. They assist them in grocery shopping and errands. Some do in-home service for seniors to help senior living. It's been a long-standing program over there at Sebastian.
Gotcha. And so those programs were also affected by the pandemic. It wasn't
Yep,
just
but now they've partnership with Southside Dental, so they're doing
wasn't just
the dental
rich
programs
white
back.
capitalists.
Well, they did well.
We were all
They've
fucked.
done well through COVID. A lot of these online companies have done extremely well.
Which, honestly, good for them. They figured out a model that was recession-proof.
Unfortunately, there's money in tragedy.
I have zero qualms about a company who set themselves up to be successful even in a recession. That's not their fault. I mean, it is, but it's not a problem in my eyes. The problem is companies that didn't figure out how to make their shit recession-proof, and now they're jacking up their prices dramatically a year or two later to compensate for the last 2 years of lost profits. That's what pisses me off.
Well, that and $15 an hour.
still don't
I
think-
think this inflation is nothing more than, the capitalism raising their prices to counter the $15 minimum wage.
So what's the alternative? I mean, are we really talking about capping
No,
income? Because that's communism, and that's where I get terrified.
There are voluntary profit sharing programs in corporations. Different corporations do it differently. There's a lot of companies that take care of their employees quarterly. There are many ways that corporations can fix our equity issue across the country. On a voluntary measure, a lot of them don't do it, because they don't have to. But there are some that are leaders in that. And, if you work for a company where you get a Christmas bonus or a quarterly bonus, instead of the CEO making, millions and millions and millions of dollars, spreading that across your corporation is just the right thing to do, And even though they work on behalf of shareholders shareholders,
right? I get that, but
shareholders
how do we do
understand.
That? But how do we do that? Like, what are we going to guilt CEOs?
Some of it's going on already, and some of it's going on already.
I mean, it's not happening with the Targets or the Walmarts or the Amazons.
Yeah,
or
they're the bigger
Apples.
ones. Small to medium, large companies. It's easier, but once a model is utilized and found to be successful, it ought to be promoted around, and slowly but sure, it's just a way to keep capitalism afloat.
Man, you are a political consultant.
It's a good way to
because
keep-
that is such a non-answer, Uncle. Come on, man. That is such a BS, like, water treading answer. Like, for real. Okay, I get it. What we're really talking about is these corporations are making more and more and more than they ever have, and really it's the poverty gap. It's the class divide.
Yeah.
That's what we're really talking about. So how do we fix this without talking about capping wages. And like, asking people to just do the right thing, I don't think that's realistic.
Well, first of all, it's your avenue, and I was just discussing the avenue of a corporation and its employees, because that's the way that they can touch a lot of us outside of their nonprofit, their tax write-off giving. That's another whole realm. I didn't discuss that, but I was only talking, with respect to what a corporation can do internally, because I think it starts there. You start with your own before you can go out and boast about other things, because the more you can do with that individual employee, the more that employee can turn around and donate to its local elementary school or middle school or high school in its neighborhood. So I think that's the first and most important part. Beyond the nonprofit funding, we're hit and miss here in Minnesota. There's a lot of nonprofits, but they determine where and what they want to fund. That's a fundamental problem.
Who does?
The foundations themselves. And part of the problems with them too is, they may find an area to fund that's very important. They'll fund it for a year, maybe 2 years, 3 years, and then when things start to change and numbers start to change and things get better, they pull that funding and then go fund somewhere else. So philosophically, that's a bad way of doing things that we historically in Minnesota have been doing.
So it's kind of like just filling potholes. Like they're not maintaining roads; they're just filling potholes.
Right.
So it's like, what? We got
certain people.
Like, and this is a ridiculous metaphor, but think of it like this, right? So, we got really bad traffic problem on this street, and it's because there's a bunch of potholes. Let's fund it for a couple years to fix all the potholes. Oh, look, traffic has been improved. Stop funding the road maintenance on that street now. Now we go to a different street where it's like, no, we got to leave some money behind to prevent more potholes from showing up. Otherwise, we're going to have the same problem in another 5 years.
Right. Well, that's the problem with big government, is that it needs to feed itself. So if there weren't potholes and if there weren't problems, they don't justify their self in business. So there has to be something for them to go do, and that's been done across the board. It's a big operation of state government, but road maintenance is something that goes on all year round. It's job security, and
it was just a metaphor, but
yeah. No, I guess my biggest frustration would be projects being done twice. And I point to the city of Minneapolis. It's I remember working down at Dayton's, down on Nicollet Mall there, and they tore up that mall, redid it, and then they tore it up again and redid it. 10 years later, they did the same thing. They literally did it twice. That's more frustrating than anything for me that I've witnessed and watched, is how these things get done twice sometimes. Yeah, that's a big waste of tax dollar money.
So what other projects you got going on with the government that they can't seem to get out of their own way on?
Well, equity issues, as it relates across the board are, I believe our failure to address equities and disparity issues is part of the reason why we have such an upswing in our crime rates here in Minnesota and across the country.
You don't think it's the complete lack of police presence?
Yeah. We lost 600, 900
Let
officers.
me put it this way, man. Let me put it this way. We have, on any given Friday or Saturday, we have between 6 and 8 cops for the entirety of North Minneapolis.
No. Yeah. And they're usually just at gunshots and killings.
Yeah, and they all have to show up together.
Yeah,
because
safety.
Yeah, because of safety issues. So they go from one deal to the next. They can't. That's not a way to police anything.
Yeah. No, we've grown criminals over the years with our failures to really address opportunities, education, and mental health issues, along with that. Ultimately, we feel in the public safety realm. So,
but how though? This is what I'm getting at. Is like where does the government actually have the ability to do anything? Because every time we give them money to do anything, nothing actually gets better. I've never seen a single thing in a tangible, like, overall. Maybe like you said, maybe for a couple years something seems to get better, and then maybe you just kind of like open my eyes. The reason shit goes right back to the way it was is because they pull funding. But in the overall grand scheme of things, like every time the government does something to fix homelessness, it never gets better. The cities with the highest level of funding towards helping the homeless have the consistently, and it keeps going upward. I'm not saying it's direct correlation. It's actually like an odd response. I don't understand like what we can actually do. And we, even when it comes to funding the public schools, the money, I did a research, I did some research a while back. It was a long time ago, but the money's there. It just never makes it past.
There's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of bureaucity.
Yeah,
There's
it never makes it past
bureaucracy.
the admin levels.
Right.
The money never makes it to the classroom.
Right.
So I don't agree with we need to fund the public schools.
Well,
better.
there's
initiatives
initiatives
fund them pretty well.
Right. There's initiatives that state education dollars follow the child, and then it goes to the school that the parents pick and choose. That is one way. Or if they want to homeschool or they want to go to a private school. You know, there is legislation around to try to do that, to bypass the big bureaucracy of the public school district that consistently educates more than it educates.
Because I think that's where it really starts, right?
Yeah, that's something that's going on now that is not out of the box thinking. Our Injustice Correction Engagement Authority bill that we're pushing up at the legislature to address equity issues and creating a sense of autonomy to make sure that we're working smarter, not harder. So, you know, every community has the health component, their mental health, any of the health related issues that may be out there. Every community has a education component, early childhood tutoring, you know, getting dropouts back in school. Every community has, you know, job creation, workforce, economic development activities, and then of course public safety things. How do you keep young people busy and off the streets and channeling in a different direction as opposed to the way they go? Those are all the areas that Minnesota underfunded at the legislature year in and year out. It's just
for what, 20 years, 30 years,
as long as I've been politicking up at the legislature, which is almost 30 years.
To put this in context, basically, is what we're talking about is kids aren't graduating school, so there's a less educated workforce, which means there's less people out there making good money.
Out hustling, creating crime.
So it becomes easier for them. And then we have the economy we're dealing with. That's a whole separate problem. But you deal with the economy. It's so fucking easy to go out there and make dirty money. It's almost too hard to make an honest living because it's so easy to go out there and sell drugs or do some other crazy shit. Like, it's the system is set up to be difficult the wrong way. It should be really difficult to be a successful criminal. Sadly, it's really fucking easy. Yeah. It's really hard to make a decent living. Like, we're not even talking about getting rich. This is what I'm trying to say. Just to be mildly comfortable, it is way too fucking hard. Let alone if you want to like start a small business and take it up a notch and do all that. There's so much bullshit you have to go through. It's so much easier to just sit back and say fuck it and be a degenerate. That's what I'm getting at is the biggest problem, and I do think that starts with schooling. If we can get kids better educations, get them interested in things like engineering, to where it's not just doing math for a good paycheck. It's, I fucking love engineering. I love chemistry. I love, fucking aeronautics, whatever.
Right.
If you can actually get kids educated to where they truly understand STEM, music, art, anything.
Everybody has their own niche. Everybody's good at something.
Right.
It's adults' responsibility to figure out what that young person's attributes in society really are, because everybody has certain things they do well, and then foster and push that trail of education that keeps it interesting. And then it goes back to that same corporate responsibility and capitalism and making sure that you're paying your workforce and you're including them in profit sharing, because at the end of the day, that's how you fight the easy money on the street and just the generational societal evolution that we see in young America in our inner cities today. That you have to be able to provide alternate avenues that are sustainable and that bring them back into the nuclear family and begin to live a different lifestyle, because that's what it all boils down to. And our bill at the legislature addresses that across the state, and it allows professionals to determine where resources, our collective tax resources, should go. Up in Duluth, down in Mankato, down in Rochester, and of course here in the metro. So we're continually pushing that.
And I've always told you, we've talked about this in the past, that shit actually makes me even more nervous.
You shouldn't, because strong, and it shouldn't, because you know what? When we have a strong, working, effective African American community, we have a strong, working American community. And that's the bottom line. What I mean by people ought not fear that, because that's going to be the foundation of
don't put words in my mouth. That's not what I meant. Well, what I meant is giving more authority. No, is what I meant is giving more authority to a state level instead of a local level. The higher that authority goes up, and like somehow like the state has the best idea as to what Minneapolis or Duluth and Mankato needs. That's the problem. And then is what boils down to is it's like, no, because then there's representatives from those communities. So then it just comes down to a popularity contest and who's going to be the best friend, and it just gets classic politics right away. Who's going to persuade you?
Either I said it wrong or you heard it wrong, because it starts at the state, but these resources, where they ultimately end up, are made at the local level by local Minnesotans, not politicians. How? By sitting on a committee, by educators sitting on the education committee, by health professionals sitting on a health committee, by public safety and NGOs sitting on the public safety table, and then of course the entrepreneurs and the job creators sitting around that table in their local communities, who assess these requests for funding proposals that service 60% of African Americans, Minnesota African Americans, and beyond, because you're going to always support other people. You don't ever tell people no, but these are resources that would never get there ordinarily. And the money's already there. The money's already there, coming from the state, but
it's just making sure it's actually getting to the places.
There's all kinds of fiscal accountability, and there's outcome-based analysis that goes along with each committee, with each area, which is where we begin to document and watch those numbers.
Who decides where the state funds are going?
15% of these resources go up to Duluth, so it'll be leadership up in Duluth who live in Duluth, work in Duluth, and serve people in Duluth. They'll make those final calls. We're just setting up the apparatus across the state for this to happen. And there's 46 stipend positions, because these are important positions and they make important decisions, and they're all going to be held accountable to those. But this is a completely new way of addressing the equity issues that we year in and year out never achieve. And it's we all have to hold ourselves accountable when we don't do things right. I've got a heavy lead foot. Okay, I speed a lot. All right, so there's stop signs and there's stop lights to keep me accountable. Well, the legislature
control you and hold you back, man.
The legislature loves
the man's trying to hold you down, man.
So I respect and understand
gotta ride.
And in that same spirit, the legislature itself and the way it does business needs to be altered, and there needs to be a process put in place, which is the Injustice Correction Engagement Authority bill, to assist them with this, because they can't do it themselves. They're used to spending
is the ICEA
Institute. What is it called? The Injustice Correction Engagement Authority. So EI.
So IKEA.
Yeah, whatever the acronyms are. For me, it's 25 years I've been pushing this vision.
ISA?
I mean,
I say
let's get this shit done. Is what I say.
I say.
So
I say that's a bad name.
Yeah. So
all those bills, though, whenever they get passed, they always got some clever acronym.
Yeah.
And if you have an acronym already, right, and then you make a word out of it, it's called a backronym. But either way, that's how those bills usually end up. Honestly, I think it's some cheesy subconscious shit. So if you guys don't get this bill passed, I think you got to rename it, and you got to get it to where the acronym is something that. You know what I mean?
Well, this is the second name. The first name of the bill, when we were trying to attach it to all the Viking Stadium bills, was the Minnesota American Reconciliation Partnership. So we rebranded it probably 3 years ago. So yeah, and I'm happy to be back talking with Senator Rosen, Senator David Senjem from Rochester. These are two authors of the Viking Stadium bill. So. Quote, I'd remind them we have unfinished business. So
what about that crazy bitch Ilhan Omar?
Well,
I think she's
just
a
heard
fucking nut job.
there was a candidate just announced on the Republican ticket is running against her. But
is he reasonable?
We'll see if there's any.
Because if he's reasonable, I'm voting for him. Because the last fuck who was running against her was a nut job too.
Yeah. And then there's people who could challenge her in the DFL party too.
Last election, there was 2 of them that were basically straight up communists.
Yeah.
I mean, they all but just said they were communists. Like, so she was actually the lesser of all the evils again. Just like Frey.
Yeah.
Because I can't believe it, but I actually voted for Jacob Frey again. Because looking at the people who were running against him were even crazier.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, this is the most reasonable guy to vote for. That's what. But I haven't voted Republican. It's either been independent, libertarian, or Democrat in dude, a long time, man. So if that Republican candidate for her position is even just reasonable, I don't give a shit. I'm voting for him.
Yeah, it says, the Minneapolis is pretty strong DFL, so I think if anybody's going to unseat her, it's going to happen within the party. And on the other hand, it's nice to have an international perspective in Congress, good, bad, or ugly. It's nice to know what's going on around the world that we and our CIA might not be able to infiltrate. Their citizens live here in America just like all other immigrants are here in America, and by not having any Muslims in Congress is a bad thing. I think to have them there is just another way to hear another perspective in life, and that's important in decision making.
I mean, I would definitely agree with that wholeheartedly in principle. You know what I mean? Is what I don't like is when anybody from any sect, including the Christians, start trying to pass their religious policies or views as legislation.
Right.
Like that's where, because we have a separation of church and state, right?
Of course.
That's where I have big issues with it. And honestly, the only real issue I have with that version of the Democratic Party is the irony that they masquerade as Democrats. like the Muslims and Islam is an extremely conservative religion. You think evangelical Christians are conservative?
Political whores jump from party to party.
Bro, I'm just saying somehow the Democratic Party has tricked the Muslims into believing that their views align. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life, because they don't. The Muslims, any version of Islam, is way more conservative than any version of Christianity.
Well,
even Judaism, unless you start getting to like Hasidic Judaism, maybe like Greek Orthodox, kind of where my wife's family came from, Irish Catholic, maybe. I mean, we're talking like hard line conservatives, dude. And that's really the only thing that sticks out to me is the hilarity that somehow they masquerade as if their views and morals and principles actually align with the Democratic Party, and they don't in any way, and I think it's hilarious.
I think they have their own set of issues, and they are a pretty tight-knit political community as it relates to numbers and seats, and so yeah, it's
the Democratic Party has also just always been a mess.
That's part of being the big tent. Being a big tent party where you got a lot of different social interests in your party.
Yeah.
The Republicans primarily have always been a party of business and economics.
Yeah, and they're way more unified.
And until 20 years ago, they were satisfied with that, and making sure they got their business needs met politically. But beyond that, that's what they did. They made money,
Yeah. Whether you like them or not, whether you think they're good or bad, that's not what I'm getting at all. I'm just talking about the pure philosophical points of view of the two different parties. Like, from everything I've ever understood, the Democratic Party has always been a chaotic mess, even down to how they choose their own candidate versus, so literally the protocols and procedures of how the party operates, down to how the Republicans do it.
Right.
Like, the Republicans are just so much more organized and on the same page and unified in how they do shit. It's
I think it
is what it is.
A lot of it's power and control. The top people in the party ultimately who want to control the outcome of their party and the party who get elected, because that's where everything happens, is in the in the elected arena at just state, local, and national level. everything starts there and manifests itself in society a year or two later, every session.
Luca's got a great question. Shout out to Luca being in chat. Luca's got a great question. He says, I appreciate taking a different approach. And this is kind of what I was getting at too, right? I appreciate taking a different approach. And I'm going to amend this. I'm going to insert my own summarization of what I was saying. And it sounds like a great idea. But who and how will it be held accountable? Because we as voters can't already hold our politicians accountable for the mess we're currently in. So how is it that trying to take this different approach, and this is what I kind of asked you about last time we came on the podcast, and we were talking about the generation of this idea. I was like, how is this actually going to end up any different? Like, that's what always scares the shit out of me. And, and maybe this isn't something we can talk about in simple terms, so if we got to go highbrow on it, I'm not afraid to feel like a chimp.
It is pretty simple.
If you make me feel dumb, I feel dumb.
No, it is pretty simple. Shout out to Laka. Thanks for joining us here, brother.
Is it Luca or Laka?
Luca. Yeah. Picking up that telephone and making a phone call still is effective. Shooting an email to your legislator is still kind of effective, but nothing's more effective than picking up a phone and calling your legislator. Showing up at a county board meeting, a school board meeting, even to your local neighborhood association is a level of government, and participating. And it's having 5 days, 4 days, a year to do something in that realm is as important as going to vote on election day. There are certain civil expectations as citizens should have, is to vote and to at least make a couple calls on an issue that are important to you. And everybody has different issues, but at the end of the day, there's nothing more important than picking up a call, calling Gail Dagler out at the Carver County Board and say, dude, act more Christian-like and provide better public policy for your people.
That sounds great, but that doesn't like make me feel better, because that's the same situation we're in now.
But it would make you feel better if you did. That's what I'm saying.
But I can do that now,
right?
And it doesn't fix anything.
Well, you asked about accountability, right? Yeah. How do you ultimately get that accountability? Is the constituents are the only ones who can hold their elected people accountable by voting them in and out of office, and while they're in office, is touching them.
So basically, this isn't different in any way, then.
No, I mean,
so if it goes south, you stay like we're in the same boat we're in now, because the procedures to hold them accountable now will be the same procedures to hold them accountable then. And that doesn't make me feel better, because it doesn't work now.
I know. That's why you hope that there's better public policy that they do come up with.
Like, and one of the biggest problems I have is that politicians seem to think that, and this is really a big mindset I have right now, period, is that everybody's mindset is, okay, I'm in office. What am I going to get the government to do to fix everything? So it's all about coming up with a program to give somebody money. This is my biggest issue. It's like, who said, like, name, I shouldn't say name one, because I guarantee there's a bunch of them, but
Title IX.
Most of them who win the lottery, most people who are just given money, go bankrupt within 5 years. This is not how we don't fix anything by just giving people free shit. We all fucking know this. We all know this. Anybody above the age of, say, 25 understands getting free shit doesn't actually fix anything.
Well, I would say in response
to you if you want to.
In response to that is Billie Jean King at the Super Bowl talked about the Title IX funding for women's sports. And how that has been so successful in creating women's hockey, softball, football leagues, sports. That is a piece of public policy, but it had a revenue stream to ensure the outcomes were met. So you can't just have policy with no revenue stream to follow them, or that policy will not manifest.
What do you mean by a revenue stream to follow it?
The Title IX had a lot of federal resources to ensure that states that women's sports was invested in across the board, to the level that we see today. Our U.S. women's hockey team, none of that was existence 20 years ago, but it was Title IX funding and policy that made that happen over a generation or two. So our bill at the legislature, as we pivot directions from on these issues, ultimately need to have the same revenue stream to follow the new practices and policies that are being put forth here. So yeah, that just Title IX is a good example. So the bottom line is that these things can be fixed. We haven't talked about the criminal industrial complex.
So I'm just looking this up because I have no idea what you're talking about, right? So I had to look this up real quick. So it says, passed in 1972, Title IX banned discrimination in higher education. It stated that colleges could not exclude women from any activity, including sports. Suddenly, colleges that only offered men's teams found themselves out of compliance. Title IX increased access to women's sports at the collegiate level. I don't think that has anything to do with funding, dude.
Well, yeah, there was funding to make that happen. Those things didn't just exist. Women hockey across the state and across the country didn't just happen. There was a concentrated effort to make it happen and to address that inequity. So all I'm saying is that our bill is in the same spirit as the Title IX funding. And our goal is
it is pretty wide open. Like maybe it is in here something about funding because it says it offers a wide range of protections from athletics and admission to housing and sexual harassment. So yeah, there's got to be some sort of funding.
There's a lot of it.
It wasn't just an interpretation of the Constitution thing.
Right. And we're
okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
So that's all we're doing. And I would also ally it to.
But what programs then? And I'm allegorically.
Yep.
What programs are African Americans and other minorities and just underprivileged people? What are they being denied access to?
Funding.
As far as
funding
for what?
Funding for their goals and objectives.
Like what?
Well,
this is what I'm confused about because it starts to get so vague.
Well, the thing is that you could do a deep dive in any one of those four sectors. And
let's just break one down hypothetically for context, just because this is super confusing for people who aren't you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like they don't even know what you know. They have no idea what we're talking about.
Right.
So we got to walk this through very simply for people.
Well,
including myself, because I'm also kind of a Neanderthal.
There are many nonprofits who wish to serve in our communities, and for profits, but because of the lack of funding to invest in these nonprofits that do work in the community. They do mediation in the community. They do trauma. They address trauma that school kids that are on a school bus and their bus driver gets shot in the head have to deal with. There are many issues out there. There are business and workforce development collaborations that are underfunded, that don't get the attention over the years that they should have. Mental health issues. We all know we got mental health issues. We got mental health squads. But there are opportunities for people who do that psychological work with citizens that are underfunded and can't do it for free. And a lot of these issues collectively create the lack of support, create the criminals that the state needs. And this is where you jump to the criminal industrial complex, which is your law enforcement, your probation people, lawyers, judges, companies that do ankle bracelets. I mean, this whole industry is an industry we really have to look at, because for it to sustain itself and jobs therein, there has to be criminals coming into that system. And so the state, on one hand, deprives our community specifically with these basic resources to address tutors, educational, in-school suspension programs. I mean, every sector has its own issues. That's why, working smarter, not harder, we let those professionals in those sectors make those calls in all the areas in the northern Minnesota, southern Minnesota, and in the metro. So, there are a plethora of entities that will come to the surface, who will ultimately, instead of going to the legislature year in and year out and watch that legislative process take care of legislators in their districts, and then the last week or two they'll throw $1 million here, a couple million over here. The most I've ever seen spent or reinvested in Minnesota's African American community was under Mark Dayton, probably his second year as governor, and that was almost $60 million that year went to different entities within the African American community to assist in a higher quality of life. Kind of calling this a quality of life bill. To raise the quality of life and to lower the temperature for the workplace for Minneapolis law enforcement. It's a tough environment to go to work in every day in and day out. So, this quality of life initiative, this Justice Correction Engagement Authority, is a new arm of government. Basically, after 9/11, George Bush administration and Washington knew that we had a problem. So they created the Homeland Security Division to address that problem. Now, that's a big division since it got started. But ours is, I think it employs 9 people. And its goal is narrow and specific, but is outcome-based, analyzed all along the trail. And it's just a new way of doing things that we've done in the past, because what we do in the past definitely does not work. And so, yeah, I mean, that's an example. But there's just a lot of entities that I've seen at the Urban League and at Sabathani that go to the legislature and always end up getting no and end up with no's. So that needs to change.
So, because I'm an idiot, let's just put everything into a hypothetical, not even necessarily a past example of something you and I tried to do. We were trying to get funding for the community center to put in that sound and light system for that auditorium.
Mm-hmm.
And we continuously couldn't get funding for it. And it had nothing to do with not getting the right numbers on it. Man, you hotboxed the shit out of that cigar. I think you just blew out the side of it.
That's good.
That's not good, but nonetheless.
I could see the light.
Yeah. You're not gonna be able to smoke that much longer. It's gonna fall apart. But regardless, they're cheap cigars, anyways. But anyways, it wasn't a lack of getting numbers together. I mean, there was multiple people from Guitar Center that came in and talked about how they could get it done. That never got done.
Right.
That none of that ever ended up happening.
Right.
How would a bill, or the way you guys get things done in this new proposal, how would that change the outcome or the procedure
of that auditorium
what we went through if this thing was in place back then?
Well, where would a request go under our bill? If it was a stretch, it would go under the economic development bill as an upgrade and as a revenue generator for the institution. But then again, it would have to be those people who sit on that committee to make those calls. It's not us who have created the apparatus for this to happen.
You would need somebody to come in who has a company or an idea or a business plan that can generate its own profits regardless of that.
Well, it would also have to encompass the dressing room ultimately proposal, because you can't do shows and events without dressing room and holding areas, and that's what Sabathani is lacking right now. There is a plan to fix that and to cap off a roof and ultimately bust through a back wall and build new dressing rooms and holding areas with showers and bathrooms. But then that would become a stage and an enterprise that can be revenue generating. But it would be for Sabathani and the nonprofit, which would ultimately support the programs and the work that Sabathani does. But that's where a situation like that would most likely fall under the Economic Development Committee to address and to assess, and if there weren't other things that were more paramount to them, to fund that cycle. But this goes on for multiple years.
I don't know, man. It just scares the shit out of me, because it's like, from my experience and what I see on the ground level in the community where I live,
mm-hmm.
which is a black community,
right?
I see a lot of dudes looking for work, and I see a lot of guys wishing they could start a business, but between taxes, permits,
Right.
just the fucking rigmarole and the bureaucracy,
Right.
the government, honestly, I'm sounding like a Republican. We need less government, and we need these fucks to get out of our way. And is what I find ironic is we have a group of people who want to defund the police, and they want the police and the government to get out of our lives in that way. But then they turn around and they want the government right back in our lives to dictate how we do everything else. And
It's limited. It has to be limited government.
Very limited government. And I think it's too hard to start a small business, especially a small business where you can make decent money.
Right.
And a lot of that does have to do with the crony capitalism, because big corporations are able to do things so cheap and cost effective that it's very hard for a small businessman to compete now, unless you come up with some version of an online thing. Like when, you can do a disrupting style break-in, which is like what Netflix did, right? Like Netflix would have never started a retail video store and been able to keep up with Blockbuster and Video Update and Hollywood Video. It would have never happened. But when they eliminated all that overhead, not only were they able to compete, they completely collapsed and destroyed an entire industry and basically single-handedly invented the idea of online streaming, which now is the basis, the ground level of how we consume entertainment. That's insane. To put that level of expectation on somebody in order to come up from nothing, the Americans with crony capitalism. But I think even bigger is the problem of the government getting in the way of small businesses through crony capitalism and making it way too fucking hard for us to do our jobs. Like we already know how small the profit margins are on a bar or a restaurant. They're razor thin. Everybody knows that. So when the government steps in and tells you how to run your restaurant, and I'm not talking about health codes, dude. I'm not talking about salmonella and rats and shit. I'm talking about everything else we've been dealing with for the last 2 years. There's just that is contributing to the homeless crisis. That is hurting the poor people. In this case, what we're talking about is the African American community, people who were barely making ends meet.
Right.
But somehow this rhetoric in our world is like, oh, the business owners, they need to take care of their workers better. And it's like, motherfucker, most of us don't have a lot of workers. Like, it blows my mind because none of this math actually adds up for me. Like, I understand individually, systemically, this is a problem in a linear fashion, but that's not how the world works. It's circular and things are related, like the ocean, right? We're dealing with currents, and you can't just fucking stick a pylon in the middle of the ocean to disrupt the waves for these people, because it can have catastrophic effects. You can't fuck with things like that, man. And I
guess I would look at it this way. And
I'm just not sure more government funding is the answer to really
It's not more government funding. It's spending the government funding that should have been spent more effectively.
Fair.
That's what it's all about.
You're right.
And I'll use a quote from Dr. Scott Jensen, who's running on the right. He looked at our bill and he said, it's going to take a solution. It's going to take a systematic solution to fix a systematic problem. And I thought that was just profound because it's pretty much true to what we're trying to do here. And
say that again.
This was a quote from the candidate with the governor's boots, because I think at the end of the day that's what it's going to take. It's going to require a systematic solution to fix a systematic problem. And if people believe that our problems are systematic, which I do, it will require a solution that is also systematic to fix that and to turn it around, to begin to lower the numbers of criminals that we create in society, because right now our practices and policies have done nothing but do that, and that's how we pivot.
Yeah.
So remember,
I can't argue with
our budget for state of Minnesota is $51 billion some dollars. So to chip off this little amount to invest in more stability in our communities. And, I don't need to tell you about stray bullets have no names. Stray bullets have no names. They have no names.
Right.
I'll never forget the day driving down Lindale Avenue. Some cat comes running out the apartment building. I'm the second car in, had to stop in the middle of the street. Boom, 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 boom. 6 rounds as a guy zigzagged through the park. There are battles going on in our cities that are, they're not hitting each other. They're hitting innocent kids. and it's just getting out of freaking hand.
Well, and it's crazy because the most violent criminals are not people in our city, in Minneapolis specifically. They are not people who were born and raised here, black or not. This has nothing to do with color.
Right.
The people who are coming here and committing violent crimes are from either other American cities, like specifically Chicago, or they're from not in this country originally.
Yep.
They immigrated here from Somalia or Mexico. Dude, the Mexican mafia is extremely present in Minneapolis. They just operate below the radar, so they don't get a lot of attention. And
Smart.
So it's just not something that's talked about like it is in LA.
Right.
But
it's
dude,
like Ozark.
Dude, I'm telling you, dude, during the riots, they fucking took over a lot of territory. Because again, like the Republican Party, they're unified and organized instead of a lot of the other gangs in this town, which are separated and they have a lot of infighting. And, there's 6 other gangs over here. There's just one Mexican mafia, and they just take over what they want when they want. And they took advantage of those riots, and they took over a lot of fucking territory. And it's kind of a wild deal, man. Like, when you really sit down and think about it, because most of these motherfuckers that are born here, like you and I, in Minnesota, or at least raised here. Maybe you weren't born here.
I was basically raised
County,
here,
but I know a lot of people who weren't actually born here, but they were raised here. We're different, like because it's almost like being Puerto Rican, right? Like I used to work with a bunch of Puerto Rican dudes, and race isn't really a thing there. You're either Puerto Rican or you're not, right? You can be white, you can be black, you can be brown, you can be gold. It doesn't matter. Like, you're either Puerto Rican or you're not. That's kind of what it's like to be Minnesotan. You're either one of us or you're not. This is what I've understood. So when I meet people who were born and raised in Minnesota, we don't really see race and all of those things the same way everybody else does. It's really interesting. Now, I'm not saying we don't have those problems here. I'm saying when people are born and raised in Minnesota, they identify as shit. I'm Minnesotan,
right?
Like it's a weird thing that we have here, and it's kind of a beautiful anomaly that I'm opening up to and understanding more that the rest of the country does not have what we have.
We are.
It's
we
weird.
are.
Do you think it's just the weather?
I know. Minnesotans are a different breed of Americans. There's no damn bit about it. I think New York in a good way and a bad way. You're either from New York or you're not. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. I'm from New York. I think New York has that too. But back to your point about other folks not being from here, that's the beauty of this piece of public policy, is that this public policy will work in Illinois, it'll work in Massachusetts, it'll work in Ohio, it'll work all across the country. The philosophy is the same, and it's so we're disappointed that the Minneapolis Urban League and the National Urban League, Mark Morial, they lack the political will to come and support this public policy initiative. I'm sorry? Yeah, man, you can let one roll. I'm on E. But we believe that the more ground we get up at the legislature, and the more successful we'll be, others will follow. We are speaking specifically with gubernatorial candidates because... why do we say it like that? If you're governor, why are you a gubernatorial? You know what I mean? That's such a weird version of American English. It's gubernatorial. That's just what they are,
So weird.
Good governors, but they wield a lot of influence. And, our expectation of...
just being a candidate, you have influence?
Yeah, well, see... you look at how the Democrats are receiving this bill and how the Republicans are receiving this bill, because there's a lot of political capital to be gained for whatever party really takes the lead here in this election season. So but we believe that at the end of the day, it's going to require a governor who sees this vision, understands this vision, and is prepared to invest in this vision and put it in their budgets for the first 4 years in office. To build this infrastructure, that's going to take a year in itself. But what's nice is that once this infrastructure is built, and then we'll most likely try to get it on a legacy funding, so we'll take it to the people for a constitutional amendment, so it has some unfeathered funding, because it's going to require a good generation or two to pull us out of this state of emergency that we're in today. And then get behind it and put it in their budgets. If the Democrats are wise and we are able to communicate effectively with the lieutenant governor and the governor, they already have a commissioner of health in play to begin high-level discussions on how government will touch our health arm. They have the commissioner of education, and will determine with our education community where and how government will support what we're doing here too. And it's limited government. A lot of it's going to be around our out-based analysis, because we want to really track and monitor where things are today and where they're going to be 10 years from now. I mean, that's just critical. And then we are an overeducated state. Sometimes we're overeducated idiots in this state, but at the end of the day, when you get right down to it, when it comes to fixing a problem, we're usually pretty good at it. It's just acknowledging that problem, and then coming up with a plan for that problem, and then pushing that plan forward.
Well, and like Luca brought up a great point, and I feel pretty strongly about this too, is I'm struggling with the fact that we continue to teach our children, or we really continue to not teach our children life skills. And that's true definitely on the bigger scope of things. But when you come in like my neighborhood, there is so many dudes who are handymen, contractors, mechanics, painters. But again, it just becomes really difficult to make an honest living in those trades. It's too easy to, you know what I mean? Like, it becomes fucked up. And then again, the system, because of this public funding, I see a lot of people manipulate the system, and they can't truly ever do things legitimately because they have to get rid of the government money. And I'm going to give you an example. So like, I know a lot of dudes that have 2, 3, 4 kids with their wife, but it's not really their wife. It's just the girlfriend. Because as long as they don't marry,
right,
and he doesn't officially live there, she gets Section 8, she
right,
gets free housing, she gets all that shit, right?
Yep.
But
those are policies that split families. Let's be real clear about that.
Well, and I'm both for them and I'm both against them, because there's a huge pro and there's a huge con, and it seems to be like exactly that. It doesn't seem to be like it seems like very much a coin where you've got two very broad sides and a very narrow band in the middle. You're rarely going to flip a coin and get it to land on edge. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's either going to be good, really good, or really fucking bad. Almost all the time. So I worry about the systems we have for people to not become self-reliant, because I think a self-reliant person is a better contributor to society than somebody who is sucking off the government teeth.
Of course, that's what these four newly arrived avenues of funding that have never been there before are going to assist and work towards. They're going to work towards reunifying and keeping families together. They're going to support the educational failures of our school district that are plentiful in our community, and they're gonna train. They're gonna job train, and they're gonna teach the skills and invest and put people, partner people with the majority community who's doing this stuff already. That's the whole beautiful. A lot of this isn't rocket science. It's just working more collectively at 30,000 feet that ultimately will allow you then to grow together and to build together and then go do business around the world together. We're just not doing that today.
And a lot of our crime, too, one thing we've glossed over is a lot of our crime gets blamed on, racism and all this other shit. But honestly, a lot of our crime comes from mental illness.
Yep. Well, that's living in this system, man. That totally is just not for you.
Right? Like just living in a box and going to work every day.
Shit. I've had my hits, and they're not fun.
But you can't make somebody take meds, right? So if somebody chooses not to take meds, they go nuts.
Right.
Okay? In a very extreme example.
It's the real me.
So if they're out on the streets and they're creating crime and creating violence, and then you arrest them, that's not going to actually help that person, right?
Right.
But there's nothing you can do for that person if they're not willing to help themselves. And a mentally ill person usually doesn't realize they're mentally ill, and usually they have no intention on helping themselves because they're mentally ill.
Right.
So we already tried way back in the fucking 30s through the 70s to pen those people up in mental asylums and shit, and that didn't fucking work.
Yeah. Well, that's where the health, I trust in the health professionals in the north and the south and in the metro to make those calls to do the best they can for their respective communities.
See, I don't. That's what I'm getting at.
Well,
I don't, because everything they talk about is like, oh, we need this and we need that and we need this, and it's like you're talking about reacting to mentally ill people after they've committed crimes. That does nothing to help crime.
No, this is a proactive. That's the whole thing. This bill and its initiative is proactive. It's trying to stay on the front end of these things to make sure that these situations don't play out, that they're diverted and altered into a different realm and a different reality for all of us, and that people ought not fear. I think the worst problem is the power and control. That's one thing with the majority communities. They like to have the power and the control over these things so they can have a say in them. Well, you've had power and control, and this is where we're at today. So it's time to try something new. Even if you have to get out of your comfort zone, we're all still Americans. Well, we're all educated Americans. There's no reason on earth why Black Americans shouldn't have the ability to have a say in what goes on in their community with resources that are quote, quote, targeted for their community, as opposed to come through liberal hands. And what's going to be nice is once this infrastructure is set up, any one of the many nonprofits now can just go to these committees and fund these committees, because these committees will have their ear to the ground and know what needs, not only know what needs, but there'll be a full assessment, monitoring, and outcome-based analysis. And if people want to see real change, they have to roll the dice and invest in it. It's just that simple. And lose the fear. Because once we end up doing the right thing and we trust and respect Minnesota's African American community, then our fears will dissipate, and we'll know. As
are you trying to say I'm afraid of Black people?
No, I'm saying politically.
I'm just kidding.
I'm saying politically across the state, and for the citizens of Minnesota, when they know that their leaders at the legislature have gotten behind this initiative and addressed issues and have come up with a plan for that issue. To address quality of life issues, that's a good thing, and that's where we're heading. That's where we want to be, and people should be happy for that. They should sleep well at night, because we are doing something different than we did before, and it's focused like a vision, a tunnel vision on how to work ourselves out of these repetitive issues that we unfortunately are living through today, and they're out of hand. They just are.
Yeah, it's wild, dude. It's a wild place. I call it the wild Midwest, man. Like, because it's
unnecessarily so. There's no reason why Minnesota's got to be the top 5 worst states for African Americans to live in.
See, I wonder
bullshit.
about that too. I wonder what that means, and I wonder how that quantifies, and like, what does that mean?
Home ownership, work, salary. There's about 7 to 12 different criteria that are in that study that they monitor and watch. Iowa's top 5 too, but. There's no reason on earth why we can't go from worst to first, to being one of the best. There's no reason on earth why we shouldn't be.
Yeah, but again, no offense, but I just got to pause you. You didn't answer my question. What does that mean? That we're the worst, we're top 5 worst for an African American?
That means we lose people like Stephon Diggs. We lose talent. We lose good talented people who don't want to live and come to Minnesota because of practices. Come on, we're known around the world right now for, George Floyd, and the list unfortunately goes on. And over the last 4 years, it's international. So that's where we're at today. We need to start coming out with some positive things out of Minnesota, because we haven't for a while.
Well, I think it could start with winning a fucking championship in some sport.
Well,
something to rally around.
How long have we been rolling, man? And we haven't even talked about
Nobody can hear you. Too far from the mic.
2022.
I used to have
That's
that same
why
jersey.
we're here. That's why we're here today.
I used to
22 is my number.
I used to have that jersey. I burned it after the 2017 NFC Championship game.
Shame on you. You burn pictures and photos too when you get angry?
Everything. No. I've never done that before or since. I burned every piece of Vikings gear that I had ever bought or purchased. I didn't burn any gifts, any purple gifts, any Vikings memorabilia that was given to me as a gift. I didn't burn any of that shit.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a dick. but I was no longer going to support the team financially, and I haven't bought any Vikings apparel, gear, anything ever since. And I will never support that team again going forward because the Wilfs are a bunch of greedy douchebags.
Why? Because they took 90% of our tailgate and property away from us.
Okay, that is in there, but that's like a way fuckers. That's a way lower thing for me. But here's the major reason. Here's why I say they're greedy business owners. They took taxpayer dollars to build that stadium, and then they charged the people seat builders licenses, which is nothing more than you're purchasing the right to buy
have a seat. Right.
Fuck you, greedy fucks. Yeah. And then on top of it, they originally, when I bought my season tickets, you got a 10% discount if you showed your ticket at the team store on game day. Then they took that away from even the season ticket holders. And dude, no, I'm done. Man, it's like right there. It's just about greed. It's clearly
not about it. It's too bad it's so goddamn fun though. What a great game.
Yeah, I tell you. But the sport's also changing, man.
Fun game, man.
But the sport's also changing, and I don't like the direction of the sport either. I don't like how expensive it's getting. It's getting irrationally expensive because these player salaries keep going up. And I understand, man, inflation. I understand, players' rights, and that's. But dude, we're the ones that pay those salaries. We're the ones that are doing everything as fans, and it's become so irrationally expensive for your average American to go to an NFL game.
But they always got it on TV, man.
Yeah, but that's not really the point. Like, what if your team finally makes it to the Super Bowl? Your average fans, the ones that fucking pay for it to get there, they can't afford.
Well, smart people
it's a
don't go to the
event
game
now.
Yeah, smart people don't go to the actual Super Bowl game itself. They just go to the city and they hang out for 5 days, and then they head on back and just have fun in and around the Super Bowl.
Pull that a little farther back. Yeah. You can pull the mic back to you.
All the way back? Test, yeah.
Oh, you're good.
But yeah, the wise people go hang out in Super Bowl cities.
You mean you. You. That's what you do.
Let me tell all the people out there. Make sure you go down to New Orleans for the next Super Bowl in New Orleans and watch it on Bourbon Street. There's no better place to watch a Super Bowl from New Orleans on Bourbon Street. Every bar has a different culture, a different theme, and they're all giving shots on every touchdown scored. And, there's not a whole lot of people because everybody's at the game. But New Orleans is a good city if you ever want to go to a Super Bowl city during the Super Bowl. That's a great one.
Say that again?
That's a Super Bowl city to go to. Tampa's nice. Miami's okay. We didn't get out to California, but Arizona's okay. But New Orleans is the best.
Really?
Yeah. New Orleans, just a fun town, and
I imagine LA sucked.
It's a lot of people.
Did you go to LA for the Super Bowl ever?
No. I haven't been there since the 70s. I need to get out there.
It's just so spread out.
You
know what I mean?
Big place.
Like that was supposed to be what was going to be cool about having the Super Bowl in downtown Minneapolis again. Is it was supposed to be really cool because it's such a compact city. But it didn't really work out that way. It ended up being too cramped.
Oh.
And
it's a nice stadium though. Holy
and then
cow.
they did. I mean, sort of. It's good for football, but it sucks for concerts. Like I hate that fucking thing. I hate that it's downtown. I hate that it's covered. Like I wanted a retractable roof in Arden Hills so we could have real tailgating.
Oh yeah,
outdoor football. And when I'm telling you, those 2 years they were at TCF Bank Stadium, I went to. That's what basically got me to buy season tickets was outdoor football. And then, man, I'm sorry, US Baby. Yeah. I will give them this though.
It's my only regret.
Sightlines are amazing.
My only regret.
Only regret?
My only regret was not to do at least a half a season, my last season with the Vikings, and done at least the first 7 games before the snow hit in, before I retired. That's my only regret. I should have done a season over there at TCF outside.
Explain to people what you're talking about.
Well, I used to run the color guard for the Minnesota Vikings for 25 seasons. Meet, greet, rehearse, and execute the national anthem. Guard? They're the military, our esteemed military, who carry the flags on and off the field as the national anthem is sung. It was my duty there for 25 years, and that would have been fun to do outside. Is my only regret, but I tell you, today I'm having more fun out in the parking lots with little parking lots there are to tailgate. And with modern direct TV, you know, some of the bigger vehicles have TVs right in the back of them. You know?
I mean, shit, just with the bunny ears.
And you just sit out and you just tailgate and you bop from party to party.
You're part of the VWO. We haven't even touched on that yet. I've had a couple of the VWO guys on now. I still can't wait to have Sid Davey. Apparently, he's a psychopath, and I just can't wait to have him on the podcast and just
let's call him
and just let him go nuts.
Let's call him. I'm
not going to call him right now. But apparently, he is kind of a nut.
Well, that's one thing you do have the ability with me being here, man. Is I don't mind reaching out. One of the fun things I do it with Facebook Live is I like calling people and catching them off guard.
Sure.
Just especially people I haven't talked to in a long time, because people freak out. They don't know what to do, and I have a blast doing that.
Yeah, but you usually fuck around and party down with the VWO guys, man. I'm telling you, we had a tailgate that was like I've partied with the VWO guys, and the tailgates are pretty cool, but ours was the shit. And I ended up in that group by pure coincidence.
Yep.
Stumbled into them. I mean, I didn't even have a parking spot for tailgating. I got absorbed into another crew, dude. And I'm telling you, his trailer was amazing, dude. He had everything just in a trailer.
Right.
And so he just opened the doors, big screen
right.
TV, speakers,
right.
stereo, and then he had a magnetic set of bunny ears or rabbit ears that he would just put on top of the thing, and you would just get and it was crisp and perfect. And
right.
It was special, and the original two founders had a falling out between the two of them, and that's kind of what dissolved the group. I mean, technically the group is still there, just minus the guy with the trailer.
Right.
But dude, he had the fucking tents and the heaters, and dude, it was
fully equipped.
It was amazing, dude.
Yeah.
I should actually give him a call and see if he's still fucking.
Well, we're losing so much territory down there. It's just terrible. There's probably going to be 3 lots available.
Pull that
for
mic farther back to you. You don't have to keep leaning forward. Pull the mic back to you.
All the way back.
Yeah, get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
There you go. That's much better.
Yeah, the minimal tailgating opportunity zones are difficult. That's where community comes into football. Tailgating throughout the day and after the games.
And you remember why they did it, right? It was because the Super Bowl was coming, and they wanted to convert them into hotels,
right?
For the Super Bowl.
In apartment buildings.
Yep. And then after they were hotels, they turned them into apartments. But where are all these people coming from? Like, I don't think we need that much. Like, we have so many vacant apartment buildings right now. It's ridiculous.
It's been on the
and then they turn around and pass rent control. And it's like, what do you mean rent control? We have so many fucking vacancies. It's ridiculous. I just read something like between foreclosures, vacant lots, empty apartments, something like that, and all the new construction that happened recently. It's like 47% or something like that is vacant in Minneapolis. Like, we do not have a housing crisis. But they just turned around and passed rent control. I'm telling you, you're never going to get that cigar lit again, dude.
Oh, because it's lit?
I will be shocked if you get anything out of that cigar going forward.
No,
here's mine.
Yeah.
And there's yours.
Yeah. Well, that's because I'm doing all the talking.
It's tough. It's tough to smoke cigars. I had to train myself. It took a while. Like, the biggest key is you only take about a puff every 1 to 3 puffs per minute, basically. Because if you smoke too much of it too fast, it starts torpedoing down the center of it, or it'll fucking blow out the side, or you end up overheating it and the wrapper will fall off. But these are cheap cigars anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But that's why I don't hand out fucking $10, $12, $15 cigars.
Right.
There's nothing worse than handing up beautiful cigars to somebody and they just absolutely destroy it. It'll give you a sinking feeling, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like if you give somebody if you give somebody a $30 glass of scotch and they're supposed to sip on it and they just pound it, you're like, you son of a bitch.
That's the beauty of having a good cigar, though, is you're not going to have those issues,
No, that'll happen to a great cigar. You could do that to a $30 cigar.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you over smoke it, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, there's no two ways about it. We can fire it.
You got your humidor?
Yep, I got the humidor here with the Marco V cigars, the official cigar. You guys, there is a link in the description if you guys want to order some cigars. These are great. These are really great cigars.
They smell delicious. Maybe I need to do the clip instead of the punch, because that's where I got the issue, was the punch.
Cut it. If you're going to cut it,
You
just got to
go ahead and cut it. You're a professional.
Professional, I like that. Yeah, that should be pretty good right there.
Right on, Mike.
Yeah, the key is when you cut it is just not to go below the shoulder, which is that curve right there, because otherwise you'll
begin to...
Yeah, it'll just start unwinding on you.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a punch guy.
So what else is Luca got on his mind over there? I see he's posted a couple times.
In a down year, the NFL revenue sharing last year was $308 million. Yeah, and these fucking salary caps, the salary cap for these players
32 teams.
It's $208 million this year, and it's projected to go up next year as much as $40 million.
Well,
these numbers are getting irrational.
Yeah.
And so in order for these fucking owners to cover the salaries, cover the operational costs of the stadiums, plus make a profit, these tickets are becoming irrationally expensive. And something to kind of put a bow on what we were talking about earlier is, regardless of race, color, location, state, whatever, wages are not appropriately increasing with inflation. And we know that because the corporations are making more and more money than ever. They're setting record levels of profits. However, there's more poor people than ever.
Right.
So we're having a major issue with that, and I do think that people need to do the right thing on a corporate level and pull a Tesla and start paying people better. Elon Musk has been notorious for that for a long time, but I just don't think that's actually going to do anything anytime soon. I fear that the only thing that's going to fix it is a complete economic collapse, or like a literal invasion, where we got to just change everything. Like the whole thing comes collapsing down. That's what I'm afraid of, man.
Yeah, well, that's what the cryptocurrency's out there and becoming more and more popular.
Which is worse. Because then it prevents a collapse, a true collapse. You know what I mean? Then we just keep on going with the same problems we have. Like at some point in time, something's got to happen to where like maybe an alien invasion.
Yeah, like those
zombie apocalypse would be good.
Yeah, well, they're all living under the ocean. Seems like they're living and breathing and circulating underneath the waters of the great oceans.
But back to the NFL thing. You think Aaron Rodgers is going to retire today?
He's probably getting close to retirement. Older quarterbacks don't really want to go play outside. People are saying he's going to be a Bronco in 2022, but half your games are played outside, and not that he's afraid, because he plays outside today.
And why would he go there when he could just go play for the Steelers?
Well, you're outside once again. Carolina.
Right, but if you're going to be outside, why would you go anywhere other than Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
It's like going to the Patriots.
Right.
It's like going to the Bucks. It's like these are prime level teams ready to go. They just need that quarterback to.
Yep. Yeah. I think Rodgers has a few more years in him. But many quarterbacks and all players, switch teams towards the end of their careers. It's not uncommon. Not uncommon at all. I'd like to see him out of Green Bay. He's tough. He's a good quarterback, and we could dress him twice a year. So, yeah, I'm not sure if he'll retire, but I think, he'll find a team that's out of the north.
Well, here's why I ask.
Down south.
Here's why I ask. Because I think it was Tom Pelissero. I don't know who it was, but it was somebody on Twitter, like a credible NFL Network, ESPN dude, said that Aaron Rodgers is not expected to leave the Packers, and an announcement is expected to come Tuesday on the Pat McAfee show. And then last night, Monday night, Aaron Rodgers put out a tweet, a very long tweet, or maybe it was an Instagram post, and it was talking about like being grateful and blah, 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 blah. And then what he said at the end was pretty cryptic, sounded like almost like he's about to retire. And then the picture he posted with it is Randall Cobb and Devontae Adams, and usually he stands right in between those two on the sideline. Yep. And it was of a game where he's not in the game and he's out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But what about Kirk Cousins?
Well,
because he is apparently not willing to take a pay cut, and at $45 million, I don't know if you know about this, but check this out. No team has ever won the Super Bowl where their quarterback has consumed more than 12 or 13% of the payroll.
Right.
And at $45 million, he will be at almost 20% of our payroll, meaning it's impossible for us to win the Super Bowl with him at that salary.
That's a bad formula.
So if he's not willing to take a pay cut or a team-friendly deal, what do you think? Do we cut him? Do we trade him? What do you do?
I like a big, tall quarterback. I think he has skills that are good, but I'm with the Brady rule. Tom Brady has always taken a cut in pay to make sure that the rest of his teammates can get a salary that works for them, so that they'll stick around and play. Because it's 11 players on each team on the offense and defense that win Super Bowls. It's not one person, and so as it relates to Cousins, I would really encourage him to restructure his deal. That's the greedy, selfish aspect of his culture that unfortunately is prevalent in football as well as everywhere else in America.
And this is supposed to be the gee golly nice Christian boy who, you know what I mean? Like the family values. And he doesn't give a shit. He's just as much of a selfish prick as everybody else in this world. And the guy has already taken home $149 or $146 million just in the salaries because he had 2 years in Washington on the franchise deal, which is an average of the top 5 salaries at your position 2 years in a row. And then he came here and made $84 million over 3 years and another $20 million last year. So you put all that together, it's like $146.
And a sponsorship deal.
No, I'm just talking salaries.
Yeah, I know.
He might
add on top of that.
But where I'm going with this, he might be the single richest NFL player in history when it comes to actual dollars paid out into his bank account. I'm serious, man, because you look at the big contracts from the past and then what was actually paid out before guys got cut or they redid their deal. Like actual dollars paid out. Kirk Cousins might be the single richest player in the history of the NFL. But my point is1's nowhere near production-wise or wins.
Right.
He's nowhere near worth it.
And he doesn't have the mentality, I think, that a Favre or a Rodgers or a Breeze or a Brady have that can comfortably
or even a
come back in the last 3 minutes of a game and win a game. I think he lacks that. And if you have to overcome that and get on top of that to win a Super Bowl, I'd be okay if he wasn't a Viking next season. Just on the salary note, if you can't, humble yourself and put forth the Brady rule and take a cut in pay to make sure that you've got good linemen to protect you and that they're well compensated, and we have some of the best in the division, because other teams will. And I'm okay rolling the dice on a new quarterback. I just like tall quarterbacks, but I've not held out hope, and you're hearing it first. I still want to see Brady and Gronk come out of retirement for one last run and bring the Lombardi Trophy to the state of Minnesota.
Why would they come here?
Because those two, just like Knapp and L.A. Los Angeles just did, a quarterback and a receiver can win a Super Bowl, and that's what they do. And those two together, along with what we have, our arsenal, would bring us to the Super Bowl.
I don't think so, man.
And I don't know. I think really do.
I think this is classic Minnesota sports hubris.
Love to see it happen.
I don't think our roster is as good as we think it is as Minnesota sports fan. And this is something I'm just coming to Jesus on, like my come to Jesus moment, in the last 7 to 8 days. I'm starting to think we as Minnesota fans think our teams are a lot better than they actually are. So is what we're ending up doing is we're overlooking the great coaching, because I think a lot of our teams have overachieved. I think that's honestly what it is I don't think we have great teams. We have every once in a while an individual great player, like a Stephon Diggs, right?
Yep.
But he was supposed to be the missing piece in Buffalo. They still haven't won a Super Bowl. So I think we have this hubris where we overestimate the actual quality of our entire roster, but we'll see, because I do hear national pundits saying that Like, this is a locked and loaded, ready to go team, you know, blah, 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 blah. They're 1 or 2 pieces from being there. And we've seen a team go 1-15 in the NFL and then make the playoffs the next year. So that is something we could go worst to first on real fucking fast. But I don't know, man. I think it's time you blow the whole thing up. Give Queasy or Quezzy, I don't know, they're calling him KOC.
Yep.
Or no, that's Kevin O'Connell, sorry. They're calling him
our GM, our new GM.
Yeah, what did I see? It was Cam. They're calling him Cam. Queasy Adofu Mensa. Yeah, so they're calling him Cam and Cock. Cam and Kevin O'Connell, I think you really got to give them an honest to God chance to build their own version of the Minnesota Vikings. Right. So I think you let Harrison Smith retire as a Viking. I think you trade every other possible asset you have except for Jefferson and that O-line. So literally, I would trade Kendricks. I would trade Barr. I would trade
Kendricks.
Yep, I would trade because he's basically 30 years old, I believe. If not, he's 29 or maybe even 31. So you're not going to get that many more years of high level production from him. Trade these guys to a team where they could potentially go win a Super Bowl. Show you care about these individual players. Let them go be successful somewhere else. Accumulate draft picks, replace Kirk Cousins, trade Dalvin Cook, the same thing. He's never once played a 16-game season in his entire career, so he's never going to play a 17-game season. Trade Adam Thielen, who's aging, and again is starting to show some injury proneness.
With age.
Trade everybody except for that O-line and Justin Jefferson. Find a way. Figure out, I don't give a shit. You put every egg you have in finding a quarterback. Yep. You put it into that basket. And I don't care if that means you draft 3 quarterbacks for the next 5 years every single draft. 1st round, 4th round, 7th round. I don't give a shit how you do it. Figure it out. And you build the team around the quarterback and Justin Jefferson and give Queasy and Kevin O'Connell a genuine chance to build their own version of the Minnesota Vikings instead of trying to make them win with Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman's roster. I just don't think it's fair.
That's why they say rebuilding does take 4 or 5 years. I mean, that's how Dallas won their back-to-back Super Bowls. Is, we gave them all of our draft choices along with that trade to get rid of a bunch of uppity Negroes at the time. That was pretty much it. Mike Lynn, yeah.
You can say that word, though. Yeah. Even with me being an 8th black, I can't say that.
Yeah. I mean, they were holding them accountable, and there's consequences to accountability. And failure to hold account. And we haven't even talked about Ukraine and these swift sanctions that were supposedly thrown out there.
So what do you think about that?
I just hope he's not another frickin' Hitler. I think Putin could turn into be a Hitler, another Hitler. And if he chooses to rebuild the old Soviet Union, that would include Poland. I just, war is hell. People die. Work harder in the diplomatic realm to make sure that doesn't happen. But, the as difficult as those issues are, World War I and World War II started out the same way, It
does worry me how much land in countries, both China and Russia, are trying to annex.
Right.
Like, nope, this is our land, you're our people. Like, that is some fucking legitimate dictatorship. Yeah. And again, we talk about these kind of injustices right here in our own country. And it's like, y'all motherfuckers don't give a shit. Because there's actual terrible shit happening across the globe, and we're not doing a thing about it. Right. We're buying our iPhones, we're buying our Nikes, which are all made in fucking sweatshops by slaves. So don't talk about this. LeBron James and all these dudes are making millions of dollars off of slaves. So I don't want to talk about what oppression these rich, privileged Americans are going through just because they happen to be black. It's just, I feel like that is the most insulting thing to all the actual problems that we are dealing with for guys like LeBron James and Colin
John
Kaepernick
Cena
to be making money off of slaves through Nike. And then same thing, Disney, what they do to black people in order to release a movie in China. Do you know about this?
No.
So Disney will take a black character on a movie poster and shrink them down to a point where they're almost not even on them, or they will just flat out remove them, and they'll edit the movie to reduce a black person's part in the movie to get it released in China, because China doesn't like black people and they don't care who knows it. That is the shadiest, most un-American. They're censoring their art. Think about this. This is the most un-American thing in the history of art. Is you're censoring your art for another government so you can make money on it. That is the definition.
The
of
Chinese government has
out.
been investing in African countries for a long time. So I don't think they don't.
They're not investing.
It's not
They're
like they
exploiting.
don't.
They're exploiting.
That's just like everyone else exploits. But
the difference is though they're doing it now. While every other part of the world realized how unethical that was. The Chinese are doing it right in front of our faces, and everyone is afraid to say anything about it. That's the fucking difference, dude. Yeah, this isn't 1909, right? This isn't 1876.
Well,
this is fucking legitimately 2020.
That's Trumpism.
What do you mean?
Well, Trump was the first to bring out, feelings, thoughts of yesterday.
You're talking about China? Anti-China?
Anywhere,
I'm just saying, man, they're doing all the bullshit we did 150 years ago. They're doing it right now, and nobody's willing to say anything about it.
Right. It's hard to hold yourselves accountable. It just is. I mean, the most effective thing the United States government and Congress could have done was to the Congress have some bipartisan sanctions that Congress put forth, not the president and his executive order, but something that really represented the people of America. And that just hasn't come forward. And, Ukrainian lives should matter, and
all lives matter.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's just uncomfortable when you see two countries.
I didn't mean to do that. That was a bad joke. Sorry, guys.
It's tough for us to see two countries that historically battle to the end. Right. That it's like Daniel Snyder ultimately changed the name of the Washington football club to the Washington Commanders, I believe it is now.
Yeah, the nickname's already commies, like the Vikes, the Pack. You know what I mean? No, they're it's the Washington Commies, right. And I just find that fitting.
That steadfast, stubborn, philosophy is ingrained in both, and which is can lead to some bad things happening. And
so you're obviously pro Ukraine.
Well, they're a sovereign nation, and when countries start just taking over other countries, you're more of a bully than anything. I think Putin's more of a bully, and it's hard to hold bullies accountable, but it's the best thing to do when you can. But once it's out of control, it's out of control, and then it can fluster fast, and you never know what the hell outcomes are. But war is hell. Yeah. People die. We always show the images of ships and guns and rocket mortars, but we never show dead bodies floating on the beach or, dead on the ground.
Yeah, because dead bodies don't sell.
Yep.
Explosions are cool.
Oh, they are.
That brings in recruits.
Yeah. But
I just hope being on the ship that exploding. They sell it like you could be doing this to the enemy.
Be stuck on a ship. Yeah. Well, better a ship than a submarine and getting hit.
Yeah.
You can jump off a ship. You can't jump out of a submarine.
True. I don't know if I would want to be on the ocean at all. Honestly, if I were going to be in the military, I would have wanted to be a pilot. I would have wanted to be a jet fighter.
Yeah. I'd be a Coast Guard. I like water.
Top Gun.
Yeah.
Are you a good swimmer?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hell, I got hold records at Maplewood Junior High School with an afro. Hell yeah. I grew up on a lake, so I grew up swimming. I swim from one side of the lake to the other. And on the swim team, people, they'd shave their arms and their legs to try to get better times, and I'd step up on the starter block with my 3-inch afro and beat them all.
That's incredible, dude. That's a lot of drag, man. That's a lot of drag, dude.
Yeah, it was. That's the 70s. That was the 70s. Yeah, well, it's good to be here on February 2nd, 2022. When did we book this? When did we put this in the books? It had to have been almost 6 months ago.
It was a while.
Yeah.
Pull that mic back to you again.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's a while because I knew you were going to want something going on one of those days because you did this last year. You're obsessed with twos.
Yeah,
and we explained this last time, but I forgot. What is your obsession with twos?
I don't know. I think, for me, it was Paul Krause back in the day, watching him play, and then I wore 22, all throughout my own little football career. And, like you burnt all your old Viking stuff, I got tired of getting my Viking World Order jerseys, and then the player leaves, you got to redo everything, and then the player leaves 4 years later, you got to redo everything. But now Paul and I are locked and loaded, so he's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
Nice.
So, and
I'm surprised you never just went and got your own custom jersey.
Yeah.
Because it's not actually that much more. I think it's only $20 more than a real one at the team store.
That's glorifying oneself. Even though I glorify myself with my surname, we all got Sir and Lady names in the Viking World Order. Sir VIP is not just for me, but it's for other people like Luca and other folks that are all out there. I'm able to use that VIP and push it towards other folk along the trail. So that's where the Sir VIP comes from.
That's cool.
Yeah, we're all very important people.
Yeah, I joke with all you fuckers. I'm not getting a tattoo, and I'm not going through no bullshit prospecting.
Hey, man, it ain't easy being a Viking fan, man. We need mental health.
I don't think I deserve to be in the VWO because I don't even know how much of a Vikings fan I am anymore. They just continuously do dumb shit. And I don't have faith in the Vikings leadership, meaning the Wilfs. I don't think they know who to hire or what to do. I think they make knee-jerk reactions over and over again. And they go to, so for example, great owners, they kind of know what they're doing and they stay the course. And they make small adjustments to keep themselves on the right path. Yeah. Okay, so if they have the wrong coach, they'll adjust. But they'll bring in the right coach, right? Especially when it comes to learning how to win with the roster you currently have. But the Vikings continuously do these knee-jerk reactions and going the opposite direction over and over again. So as soon as the Wilfs took over the team, they fired Mike Tice, who was actually a pretty damn good coach if you look at everything equally. And they went with this crazy dictator disciplinarian and Brad Childress.
God, he was the worst.
Well, was he? Because he brought us to an NFC championship game. The next year we don't do so well. Knee-jerk reaction, mid-season, they can his ass, and they go with the overly nice guy in Leslie Frazier. We end up with an even worse record a year or two later. Okay, 3-13, tied for the worst record in Vikings history. That doesn't work out. So we fire that guy. And we go again back to the opposite direction in some fucking old school dictator in Mike Zimmer. That doesn't work out. So they go in knee-jerk reaction and go the opposite direction again. We're going to go young. We're going to go offensive. We're going to blah, blah. It's like, dude, if you guys actually knew what you were doing, you would make small adjustments and you'd still be on the same path you set out with Brad Childress. But they don't know how to run a football team. They don't know how to compete at high-level sports. They make knee-jerk reactions, and we rebuild the team every 5 to 10 years. And quite frankly, I'm sick of it.
How do you feel about head coaches play calling in lieu of the offensive coordinator? What are your thoughts there?
I mean, I don't know, man. I think it's I think it's an arbitrary thing. If you've got a guy who's a great play caller, then let him call plays, and that includes the head coach, like Belichick or fucking Bruce Arians, on two different sides of the ball.
I don't know. For me, I think the best case scenario, and it doesn't look like we're going to have it in O'Connor, is, if your offense and your quarterback are calling the plays, because that's what they're focused on, your head coach can then focus on the clock. Your head coach can then focus on replay challenges. The head coach can always intervene and say, hey, let's run this play because he's the head coach. You know what I mean? But 70 to 80% of the play calling, I'd like to see at the offensive coordinator and between the offensive coordinator and especially with a veteran quarterback.
I don't mind that.
Who's able to read that. We're not there. It sounds like the head coach is going to be calling the plays, but I think that's just to call the plays and to do those other things well. Like Zimmer failed on clock management. Clock management in the last 3 minutes of the game is important.
Right.
I mean, very important. And that, to me, requires extra attention. I don't know. That's just how I feel.
No, I can't.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. It's interesting, though, because McVay called the plays in L.A., and they just won the Super Bowl. So
yeah, well, you look pretty stressed doing it, too. And, congratulations to the Rams. And why am I drawing a blank on Stafford? Matthew Stafford.
I was
Much
on this
respect.
podcast 2 years ago saying that Matthew Stafford is the most underrated quarterback in football. And some people laughed at me and mocked me for that. The people on the podcast didn't, but other people did. And I was like, listen, man, you just get him out of Detroit and don't be surprised if he immediately wins the Super Bowl. Right. And ironically, that actually happens. He goes to LA and actually immediately wins the Super Bowl. It was one of those deep cuts where it was like, because I've watched this dude torch the Vikings, whether they won or lost. Right. I've seen what Stafford can do, and we all know how diseased the Detroit Lions are.
Right. It's the only team worse being a Viking fan is a Lions fan.
Right now, that's definitely true. Jaguars are still up there.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
And the Browns might still be there. They made the playoffs.
Well, Cleveland's come a long ways. That's one nice thing.
But they made the playoffs 1 year. They won one playoff game. But if they go right back into the tank like they used to be.
Yeah, as an accolade to our new GM, he's part of that rebuilding of the Cleveland Browns, which a very positive thing. And also that he spent time with the San Francisco 49ers. That's a very good organization, ownership and organization and a culture. And I think
I'm pretty cynical
that's
about it. I don't think so. I think fucking San Francisco is a goddamn chaos-filled environment because, again, you have Jim Harbaugh, who brings you to 3 consecutive NFC Championship games and a Super Bowl, and you can't fucking work it out with him. So he leaves, he goes to Michigan, and then a year or two later, they realize, no, it was the GM. We need to get rid of him. Yes, I get it. They just went to the Super Bowl. What was it, last year or the year before? I get it. I understand. But he played such small roles with that organization. And then he's in Cleveland where, again, it's like, so they win one playoff game and suddenly that's an organization
I think
we
it's
want
more
to be
where they
part
came
of?
from. They were shitty. I don't know. Those are just some thoughts,
Dude, here's the thing. The Jaguars were just in the AFC Championship game a handful of years ago. Yeah. Does that mean the Jaguars, we should be plucking executives from them? They still don't know what they're doing. Look what just happened down there.
Yeah.
That's all I'm getting at, man, is diseased organizations typically are diseased organizations until they switch ownership groups. Yeah. Rarely does like the Timberwolves are a great example. The Timberwolves were a diseased organization after KG left. As long as Glenn Taylor was the owner, all of a sudden we get Alex Rodriguez and his new group in, and it's a different team.
Right.
The culture has truly changed.
Right.
And that's what worries me is, like, other than Alex Rodriguez, Minnesota sports owners seem to be more worried about family-friendly profitability.
Right. That's why they didn't go with Harbaugh. One of those Harbaugh brothers was a dick. So probably Jim, and which is probably why he didn't get hired here, and it's probably why he didn't last in San Francisco.
I heard it was because one of the minority owners, not minority as in color, like minority as in shareholders. Mm-hmm. I think his name's Tom Middleton or something like that. He's a Michigan alum. And he didn't want that because it would hurt his alma mater. And that pisses me off. So we're sacrificing what's best for our franchise so you and your college can do well? Go fuck yourself, dude. This is the NFL. If this is the right guy, we hire this guy.
Right.
And so, again, it just doesn't seem like... Because it sounded like Kwesi wanted Jim Harbaugh. So the very first decision the new GM is allowed to make is immediately...
Ex-nayed by
undermined by a minority, not even the Wilfs, but a minority shareholder. This is what I'm talking. That's what I'm getting at, dude. Is the ownership? The ownership has lost my confidence. So now I don't have confidence that even if they have the right people in the building, I don't have the confidence that they'll be able to identify them and keep them.
Yeah.
Other than Rob Brzezinski, we haven't been able to keep anybody worth their weight in salt.
Yeah. Well, we have to pray for those boys. I got to give them a chance. That's all. I guess my only message is let's see what kind of team they put on the field our first preseason game, and of course our original.
Kevin O'Connell is winning me over though, because he was like talking about he's the first guy I've actually heard about. No, listen, I'm here to win championships. We want to win championships. That's the whole goal. And without champion, and I was like, yes, finally.
He's coming off one too. That's exciting.
Finally.
That's exciting.
He's got 2. He's got 2 rings. One as a player, as a backup for Tom Brady, and then he's got one as a coordinator. In LA.
See, that's why I like Brady so much. He can elevate the rest of the 10 players on the field at the time they're playing.
Yep.
And that's the kind of magic you really need. Yep. And him and Gronk, that's what they just love to do.
Vibrating over there.
Yeah, somebody's calling me.
Oh. Got it on.
Not important.
How dare you, sir? Dare you have your...
No, it's just sitting there. I can't even hear it. You must have good ears.
I felt it.
Oh.
I felt it in the table.
I was going to say, because I have it on vibrate. I didn't want to,
I'm just fucking with you.
Do, 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 do.
So what else is new, man? What else you got going on?
Still out in Carver County trying to get some long overdue justice on a piece of shit tower we bought 20 years ago.
Oh, the tower?
Yeah.
Or the radio station?
Built on wetlands, yeah. It's, it's a terrible thing, but it was a hustle. Some guy did a build for profit, corporate hustle, and we were the victims. And
so how is Carver County responsible?
It was in their backyard. And
well, right, but if somebody else came in and hustled you, how does the county responsible?
Because the counties and cities have a conditional use permit process that is set up to make sure certain criteria is good before anything moves forward. And when you turn your head to components of that conditional use permit and you go ahead and do something anyways, and then later on down the road bad things happen, then there's some liability there.
I don't know.
Morally.
I don't know, dude.
Not legally, because you got the time frame.
I don't know, man. So Elon Musk goes and he gets his permit to dig a hole in the ground so he can build his little tunnel. Something goes back and they turn around and sue LA County?
No, but if he went and pulled up his permit, did what he was supposed to do to build that hole, then it's okay. But if 3 of the 10 areas that were supposed to be checked off just were overlooked and he wouldn't build that hole, then there'd be a problem. But if he applied and abided by that conditional use permit, which is why it's there, then there wouldn't be an issue down the road. That's the issue.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if I agree with holding the county responsible because some other dude was able to scam them.
Well,
if he's able to get something built and hustle a bunch of people,
turn their heads. People turn their heads. And with a $17 million profit that the guy made in a year and a half investment.
So I'm saying go after him is what I'm getting at.
Right. Well,
I don't think the county is responsible.
Right. Well, we're just asking questions. We want to know what happened and why. And that's where we're at. But it's bringing closure to that issue out there because it's been going on for 20 some years. And as the founder, the person who put all that together over a 10-year period, my name keeps popping up out there. So
$17 million.
Until the bell rings, that fight's not over.
Oh, Luca! Shout out to Luca. Says really enjoying the range of conversations. Appreciate you, man. Really sincerely. And collaboration or collaborative is the new in the NFL. I know exactly what he's trying to say, and I think that's the new buzzword. That collaboration. Blah 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 blah. Okay, cool. Do it. Collaborate your ass to a Super Bowl. Let's do it. I'm all for it if it actually means we're gonna win a Super Bowl. But I don't know, man. The first choice Queasy has to do sounds like it was undermined by ownership, and it just perfect case in point to prove what I'm trying to say is that the ownership group does not know, starting with the Wills, they do not know how to run a successful football operation.
Keep your nose out of those decisions first and foremost.
You hired this guy to
sit up in your booth. Yeah,
and there's no better analytic than your fucking record. And Jim Harbaugh is a proven winner. And he's a proven winner in rebuilding something from scratch in Michigan and in Stanford and in San Diego State. So he's had 4 head coaching destinations, and he's won at a high level at every single one of them. He dominated at San Diego State, and he built that from nothing.
Yep.
Then he took over in Stanford and built that into something and started challenging USC as the supreme down there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's responsible for developing Andrew Luck. Then he goes to San Francisco, takes a shitty 7-9 San Francisco team straight to the NFC Championship, then to the Super Bowl, then to another NFC Championship game. Then he leaves there and goes to Michigan and builds Michigan up from nothing.
Right.
If you're an analytics guy, there's no way in hell.
That resume strong.
There's no way you're going with an unproven Kevin O'Connell over Jim Harbaugh. So I don't want to hear somebody's argument that, oh, no, they did time in San Francisco together, and Kevin O'Connell was his guy. Like,
yeah.
I've heard people try to make, and no, Kevin O'Connell was definitely the second choice, and there was some undermining of Kwesi's authority, and that's a red flag, man.
Yeah,
that's a red flag.
Welcome to Minnesota. And that is too bad. It is, and it's the NFL is important to a lot of people. It's an American institution. People
it's how we make royalty.
People are emotionally invested.
You don't think we have royalty,
state by state, team by team?
Royalty in America are our sports franchise owners. That's our royalty. It really is.
Yeah.
Think about it, dude.
Yeah.
Think about how much power people like Jerry Jones, Robert Kraft, and the Wilfs have.
Oh yeah.
With all that money.
Right.
Because they had
you can buy outcomes.
They had to be rich outcomes just to get there.
Right.
And then once you buy an NFL team, your net worth skyrockets like exponentially. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And now the NFL itself. See, the NFL itself used to be a non-profit organization because they didn't actually make money. The money was divvied out evenly among 32 teams. Now the NFL itself is allowed to be for profit. So nothing is going to be, it's just going to get so much worse. And I don't think college sports are going to get any better either now, because now you're going to have kids coming out of high school more worried about their sponsorships and making money in college than they actually are about getting an education or being the best at their craft.
Right. I was chopping that up too. For college athletes and having a graduation fund.
Yep. So when they leave college, they got some money.
Right. That no matter where you go, that as long as you get that education and that diploma, you can then go back and get these resources as an incentive.
Yep.
I
don't know if I would make them graduate, just because if you play for the University of Minnesota for 3 years, right,
yep,
and we make millions of dollars off of you because of Big Ten football,
yep,
and we hypothetically we win the national championship, you're the next fucking Peyton Manning, right?
Yep.
Homegrown kid, Joe Mauer, right? Let's say Joe Mauer decides to play football instead of baseball, and he just, for some reason, goes to the U of M, plays for the Gophers, wins the national championship. If he decides to leave in his junior year, the fact that the university made millions, I think it should be almost like a profit sharing that goes into an escrow account. So when they leave college, even if they don't make it in the pros, they're still set financially, because I do think it's borderline slavery for you to bring a kid to your college, make millions of dollars off him and his football team, and then and all you're doing is giving him $100,000 worth of.
Well, you're giving him an education as well,
but I don't think it's proportional. And the problem I have is that you're not allowing that kid to make money while he's in college, right? So he's not allowed to sign autographs. He's not allowed to have a sneaker sponsorship. He's not allowed to do those things. It's an unethical. There's no industry in the world where that's a thing.
Right.
So I agree with it on that principle, but I don't believe that the end effect is actually going to be better for college athletes or college sports.
If they graduate?
Regardless of whether they graduate.
Yeah, well, I'm an incentive cat, and I look at how can we put incentive in places to achieve outcomes. And that even if a player leaves after his third year and goes pro, nothing stops him from going another year in college at the same time and graduating and going to participate in that fund as an educational incentive. And,
Okay, so what happens if he goes pro? Does he lose his scholarship? Because that's what happens now. Once you go pro, you lose your scholarship.
You can pay for your education at that point.
Maybe.
It's just too problem because that player could go get hurt 2 years after he's gone pro, and what's he got to stand on?
Exactly.
And then that's where, being consistent and having, that graduation component of that funding, that additional funding that one could receive along the trail. It's just another way to
incentive idea, but what about the exploitation of college athletes in big conference football, right? So like, who cares if I graduate or not? You made millions of dollars off of me running routes or throwing footballs or making tackles. Whether I go pro or not, and that's what I'm really getting at, right? Like, whether I go pro or not, whether I graduate or not, I just don't think we should be allowing kids to be taking checks like that while they're in college. Because when you're in college, your focus is not supposed to be getting rich and making money. Your focus is supposed to be school.
I agree.
And if you're a student athlete, you're playing football for free school, right? The problem is we're not in the same economy we were back when that model was created. There wasn't a lot of money in college sports back then. In fact, the real deal, the whole point of having great college sports teams was it increased your student body. Because I'm bored at college, right? Well, they got a great football team, so it's fun to be part of a great culture, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, a better football team means more people coming to our college. More tuition means we make more money. That's how it used to work. But now they make so much money just off the fucking football, they don't give a shit whether their attendance increases or not. It's how many tickets are we selling at the football game, or in Minnesota, the hockey games. So I do think those college athletes should get some sort of like a profit sharing, some sort of cut. I just don't think it should be happening during their college tenure. And I don't think kids should be out there worried about endorsement deals while they're leaving high school going into college. But I also don't like the way that if you're a student athlete working your ass off, you can't even take your girlfriend out to fucking dinner.
Well, these are new times, new practices, and new policies that will.
All I'm doing is pointing out the shit I don't like. I'm not being constructive at all.
I'm chopping it up with our buddy Johnny Sox, Jimmy Thornton, and he has some strong opinions around here too. But I just think those are new areas that we're getting into to help.
Shout out to
equity.
Johnny Sox. I don't know if you're watching this, buddy. Probably not, but maybe
he could be. Just new way of doing things is good for America, and it's good to accept reality for what it is and try to make it better. Part of it, accepting reality, is the hard part, because people are comfortable in the way things are.
Yeah, it's fucking wild, dude. It's a wild time we're living in, man.
Yeah,
and we are very fortunate to be here. And that's another thing I don't really understand about how Minnesota's like one of the worst places for black people to live. Is it's like living in Minnesota is a pretty comfortable place. Like we have good health care,
beautiful scenery.
Our housing is top notch.
Great home. We do have good homeless programs.
Even if you're not homeless, I'm just saying your average, like with the Section 8 programs and the housing and public housing and all of that stuff, it's like
just overwhelming.
I get the idea that there's not enough black people owning homes according to the percentages.
Yeah, that's part of that.
I get that, but I don't know that the government is in the way of that happening. Like, I think the problem is there's not enough. I don't think there's a big enough incentive for people to own homes right now. Because first of all, owning a home is a lot of work.
It is.
So I don't think everybody's cut out to own a home. And I think we need to start talking about that, right? Just as a society. Not everyone is cut out to own a home, okay? It's expensive. It's very fucking difficult to maintain. And you either have to have the physical ability to do the shit yourself, or you have to make a lot of money to pay for repairs to be made. So what I'm not okay with is giving housing to people who can't afford to maintain it, because then what are we doing? Then the government's going to step in every time you need a fucking roof, or the government's going to replace your windows because you can't. No, this isn't how we do anything. Like, nothing works like that. So like, George Bush pissed me off with this. The Republican Party pissed me off in the early 2000s when they were like, every American deserves to own a home. No, you don't. Like, earning a home is not a privilege. It's something you like set out to achieve. You know what I mean? It's not something that's given and taken. It's something you personally earn. You go out of your way to do it. And there's a number of ways to do it. You can take out loans. You can buy it cash. You can fucking build on your own. You can do what I did and buy a foreclosure, which needs heavy remodeling, right? Because I hear about even the poor millennial white kids complaining about prices of homes are too expensive. No, shut up. You want to go live in Edina, and you don't like the fact that the house you think you deserve is $500,000. Sorry, kid. You're 22 years old. You work at Starbucks. You don't have a real college degree. You don't deserve to live in Edina. I'm sorry. And again, some of these kids don't know how to manage their money. Right. They're buying $8 Starbucks every day and avocado toast. And it's like, no. Me as a homeowner, I don't even fucking live like that.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And I don't have a lot of money. So I wonder how much of these things, and that's why I said that, when it's top 5 for worst in the country for African Americans, I want to know what that actually means. And like, how is it measured? We've looked at this before, and there's no real metric that they're doing that. It's by a survey. It's by people's opinions. They called people.
Well,
and they just said, and it's
no,
literally,
it's
if you dig to the bottom of that,
people who called it.
That's all it was. It was a phone
statistics.
survey. Yes, the statistics are phone surveys, and they called random African Americans around the country, and they said, "Do you feel happy and content where you live?" Based on a series of questions, based on your job, based on this, based on that, and that's how that ranking came down. So I want to see how that actually quantifies in the real world, and I agree. Maybe Minnesota has a huge red flag in the percentages of black people that own homes. But that, to me, could also mean that, coincidentally, the people in this city aren't interested in owning homes as black people, right?
All I know
simple.
is that a good, solid, successful community has a little bit of everything and invests in everything. We don't do that today.
I don't actually
need to do that.
I don't actually know very many people that want to own a home. That's another thing, too. I know
you did. You know yourself.
Right, but that's what I mean. I'm
right.
in my own minority. Like, even my own friend group.
You know, your home is your biggest asset one can usually have. You know, you can borrow, you can get student loans off it. You can build wealth and equity and generational wealth.
I agree.
You know?
I agree.
That's
People
the
should own
American. That's the American dream. If you're able to achieve it. And that's all that is. That's all that economic development stuff
I agree
does.
with you.
It's
no,
builds
I agree.
stability.
I agree everyone should own a home,
Build
and it makes
stability
sense.
in the community, and everyone should want that for everybody.
But the majority of my friends don't want to do that. They can't handle the responsibility. They don't want to.
Well, they also may not want to, go find a wife and build a family, and because his, policy has done the opposite. We need to change policy so that we have better family-based, economic developed, job working, tax-paying citizens. That's what we got to create.
So how do you feel about like the welfare system and shit like that? Because a lot of people think a lot of people think the welfare system incentivized women to not stay with their birth fathers.
It was a family. It was based in family separation because that was the outcome.
Yeah, and it financially incentivizes.
You know?
So do we need to start looking at making policies that will financially incentivize people to get back into a typical family structure?
Yep. However you define it in today's world.
That's why I said it that way. That's why I said it that way.
It's different than it was.
Because I don't care if it's two dudes, if it's two chicks.
Right.
Like, when you have two parents, I believe your statistics, and this does transcend race, right?
I agree.
So there's data that shows it was like something, and I don't know what this was, the 50s or the 60s. There was something like 50% of black kids were graduating high school, but 75% of white kids were graduating high school or something like that. Now, there's a discrepancy there, but when they introduced the new welfare system and we basically seen a direct decline in the two-parent household, we seen a direct correlation equally across races. So each race dropped like 25 points. So now only 50% of kids are graduating high school or something like that, if they're white, and 25% of black kids. So each category went down like 25% or something like that. And I might be punching those numbers down. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I do remember there was a direct correlation with that policy, and I also remember that there was an equal decline whether you were white or black. So it didn't seem to matter. Sam's taking a piss, so I'm going to jump into some of these questions. Russia did in 2008 in Georgia and 2014 in Crimea, and the world did nothing. Oh, yeah, when we were talking about Russia annexing shit. Yeah, I got to piss now, too. So
no, you're right. You're right on those two-parent families and the success rate of the children.
It equally affected everyone across race in a negative fashion.
And it started, when the slave ships arrived and the auctions went forth. So there was collaboration. Well, looks like I'll be hosting the show for a little while here. But no, I think any type of stability that you can bring to the community, and it's going to come from different perspectives and different angles, is something that Minnesotans ought to invest in. And so we're happy to bring this idea and this vision of public policy to the legislature, specifically in the Minnesota Senate right now. and but then on into the House, and even in touch with the current governor. Election seasons are a special time in democracies here in America, and it's a good time to get politicians' attention when they're up for election at all the various levels. So, well, now that I'm here, I'm just once again happy to be here on February 22nd of 2022. Of course, I wear the jersey 22, and 22 has always been a significant number for me. So happy to come out into this blizzard and spend a little time with the Extravaganza.
Whew.
Yeah,
that was a big piss.
A lot of coffee and water.
Ooh.
And these are long. Is it the 2:00 hour?
It is 2:10.
We're in the 2:00 hour on February 2nd. No,
So
February 22nd.
What would we
22.
call that if it's going to be the opposite of the witching hour, which I think is
I think
midnight or
we
something
open
like
up to more comments on this if we have any. I see Lucas.
There's
one
nothing
of our,
new, but yeah, if you guys want to, man, fucking
call in.
start putting your
Don't-
questions.
or
We're not
put
taking
your
calls.
text-
Don't put that out there. We're not
All
taking
right.
calls.
Text in any comments that you may want to throw out or topics to be discussed.
Yeah, a lot of these daytime ones, there's not that many people actually watching because they're working.
Right. A blizzard special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to spring coming around, and I'm a summer cat.
Me too, dude. I am so looking forward. Every time I look in my backyard, which is now just like the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field, it looks like. I miss summer. I miss being outside in the gazebo. I miss working on projects. Because I do have projects inside, but they're not the same type of projects. And I don't know, man. I just love being outside and hanging out outside, grilling. And like I said, we built the gazebo with these beautiful lights out there, and had a little tiny TV out there, and I got outdoor speakers with the stereo. We can listen to music. And
Yeah. Well, I need to get down to Ohio. Have a new grandson, Wesley. Cute little guy. Yeah, happy to say.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Good looking kid. Probably head down after the legislative session to go check in on him. But other than that, life's good. Just living life, pushing my little projects, pushing my little projects.
You got anything fun coming up?
Well, yeah, I'm working with Kimmy O'Haley over at KMOJ Radio. He does the community calendar over there on the radio weekly and talks about events that are going on in the community. So we've been in touch with KSTP and their new Morning Live, Minnesota Live show. So we're trying to put together a spotlight, turn on the spotlight for him to speak to four or so events weekly as a segment on that show. So we're co-producing that with him, and we're in our early stages of that. But if things go well, hopefully maybe April or so, you'll see a segment there that will, focus on the entertainment industry and highlight events that are going on that all communities should want to come and attend. So that's kind of exciting. I haven't taken on new projects in a while, but I've been underground for a long time, and it's time I get out and start working on some new initiatives. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Yeah. I got so many projects on the plate right now. I feel like I'm not really getting enough traction in any of them. And unfortunately, I can't put any of them down. I can't put the podcast down. I can't not make the album. I can't not take care of my parents' rental properties. And I can't drop my relationship with my wife. I can't stop fixing up my house. Those are basically the 5 fingers I have.
Right.
And then I've got 2 or 3 other shows that are kind of popping up.
Right.
And it's like, dude, I got to figure out some better way of managing my energy and my time.
Yeah, I was going to say, you should only focus on 3, but all 5 are pretty important. So it's, it's hard. I mean,
you've always given me that advice, and I really do think that is the best advice that I still give to other people is when you're trying to do shit, you can only have 3 projects on the table, and your relationship is one of those projects.
Yeah.
So that gives you time for a day job and one other thing. You've got your family, you've got your day job, and one other thing. Right. And then once you can ditch the day job, now you've got your family, you've got your main deal, and a side project.
And you're not ever putting them down. you're just putting them on the shelf. You know, sometimes you put things on the shelf and they sit for a while, then you take them off the shelf. You know, and then they go back on the shelf. It's like Prince in his vault of music, you know. He would work a song until he couldn't work it no more, and he'd put it up and wait for another song, same or similar, that could come in and roll along with it. Maybe a splash. I'll take another splash.
No, I don't really.
Otherwise, I'm good. I got my water over here. And
it's one of those single serve deals. So I either make you a cup or I don't.
It's cool.
I don't make a pot down here. I don't drink enough coffee for that.
Yeah, no.
I mean, that's actually not entirely true. I'll drink 2, 3, 4 cups in a day, but then I'll drink one the next day. So I don't always make a whole pot.
Yeah, I had mine on the way here, and once I got here,
thinking about switching though.
To what, tea?
No, it's
British tea.
It's this other shit, right? So it's sort of like coffee, but it's really kind of like a coffee alternative, and it uses like different mushrooms to give you like real shit. So
is it legal?
Oh, it's totally legal. There's a bunch of different versions out there. So like, you hear Rogan talk about it, where it's like lion's mane mushrooms, which helps with like mental focus and memory, and like chagas, which helps for this, and different types of mushrooms, and it's in a powder, and then you mix your drink or whatever. The one I'm looking at is mud water, and they are interested in having me as an affiliate sponsorship. And I don't give a fuck.
You should. You should.
I don't give a shit. Nah, dude, I look cool.
Let's see that.
I look cool,
the
man.
camera will come to you.
I look cool, dude. I don't know what you're talking about.
Alfalfa?
It's not alfalfa, dude. That's a mohawk, baby. I look fucking rad. But yeah, Mudwater, I'm looking at them, and they want to bring me on as an affiliate, so
nice.
I might try that shit out, and if I like it. The problem I have is the affiliate relationship. They're not willing to offer a discount code to the viewers or the listeners, so I'm like, I don't know, man. I kind of want to give my very small, loyal listener base some sort of incentive to go do that shit, you know?
Yep. Well, I think, podcasts are are relatively new in society, and I think they'll ultimately, find
that's why I got
different new
approved.
waves.
That's why I got approved, was because of the podcast, because they do see the value in it, and they approved me to be. They're interested in bringing me on. I wish I had a little bit more power to negotiate, because I really want a discount. I don't think my viewers should have to pay full price. I mean, everybody's throwing discounts around like
introductory offers.
Yeah, something, right?
Yep. Well, you got to get people in the game. You got to foster the market, and you got to create the market.
Yeah, something's got to be there.
Yeah.
So what other projects you got coming up?
That's pretty much all I'm working on right now.
Nothing fun in the works?
No, not really.
Just the KMOJ stuff?
Yeah, just, trying to create that opportunity zone, and, COVID and the whole entertainment thing, with the mandates and the masks, there's just not as much going on in community to promote, but as the mask mandates dissipate and people are getting out more, and of course the weather should provide more opportunities and more events going on, and bringing people together is what I like to do. I did have to put my Rise of the Titans show on hold. I'm doing the Rise of the Titans from Tartan Titans out there in Oakdale, Minnesota, and we're featuring bands that have graduated from Tartan. So, but one of the bands had some. One of their players had a health issue, so we pulled the plug on that and postponed it till spring. So,
is that the thing you were asking me if I was down for?
Yep. So we'll probably do that here in the spring out there in Oakdale. That'll be a fun thing. That's like a 5-year high school reunion type deal, and featuring local. And then of course we also will be airing the that 30-year movie of Doug that I was a co-star in.
What?
In 1981. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's an hour-long video. My buddy and director Brian Dells,
like a high school movie.
created, And
How bad is it?
it's actually pretty good for a high school senior, and it's an hour long, edited, and so we'll have an airing of that afternoon, and then we'll get into the bands after that. That show's called The Rise of the Titans, so that's fun. That'll be fun putting that together. Got my 40th high school reunion coming up this summer out at Lord Fletcher's. One of my classmates has done well with himself.
That's on Lake Minnetonka, right?
Yeah, he owns that club, so we'll be out there.
He owns the place?
Yeah.
He owns Lord Fletcher's?
Yeah.
Dude, you gotta fucking hook me up with him so I can get him on the podcast.
Well, he'd like that.
That'd be super interesting.
Yeah, he'd like that. Yeah, I'll tell you what's going on out there.
Well, it'd probably be it is probably one of the coolest spots in the state.
Oh,
especially during the summer. Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, by land or by sea.
Yeah.
Fucking
cool.
By land or by sea. Tom Emmer's his name. Yeah, good guy.
Didn't he try to run for governor?
Different Emmer. And that Emmer is a congressman today.
Ah, that's what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, shoot me his number.
Yeah, I will.
And then just tell him I'm going to call him. I'll hit him up. Don't try to sell it for me.
No. I don't need to do. You're good enough yourself.
Who else should I have on? Because you sent me a couple referrals, and those have actually been pretty cool.
Well, what happened with Sid? Whatever happened with Sid? I thought he was going to be.
He was going to come on at the beginning of the football season, and then I don't know exactly what happened. I'm not 100% sure if I forgot about him or if he forgot about me. But it just kind of came and went. Yeah. And we were going to try to do it at the beginning of the football season. COVID also made things really difficult for everybody, for all scheduling involved. And yeah, I don't remember who dropped that ball.
Can you Zoom? Do you have the ability to Zoom a guest from?
Yeah, but I'm not doing it.
Right.
I'm not doing that. They're horrible.
That would be the only way, because he's up in Canada.
No, that's why we were going to time it with the beginning of the season with him coming into town for the game.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm not doing it remote.
Well, I always thought you should have Fancy Ray on too.
I tried. He said he's not doing interviews right now.
Oh,
I was
okay.
Like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
I talked to him. I ran into him.
The president of Ukraine is a comedian.
Now that's one you could do.
You
could call Fancy Ray for me and be like, hey, you got to go do this dude's podcast. That might actually happen.
I reached out to him this morning just to help out his fellow comedian, and for what it's worth. He's a sharp guy, not just a comedian and a spokesman. He's a very community conscious
He's an interesting cat, I'll give you that much. Yep. I don't know shit about him. That's why I wanted to have him on the podcast. I want to get to know that dude.
Well, he did that show Get Down With It for a long time. Get Down With It. Yeah, you were probably just a young cat back then.
I'll have to check it out.
But he had a show on Minneapolis cable that went on for a long time.
Like a cable access deal?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's funny, dude.
Yeah, Get Down With It. Yeah. Good.
Wow. What kind of show was it?
A comedy show. Yeah,
okay.
And he interviewed a lot of different people. He was out on the street doing some interviews and then had his skits and such in the studio. He had a studio audience.
You got some pull with some Vikings players too, right?
Well, they keep changing, but the more the veterans, because every time a Hall of Famer would be inducted or a Ring of Honor.
Let me ask this: which ex-player do you have pull with that likes drinking whiskey and smoking cigars?
Carl Eller's right here in North Minneapolis. And
let's get Carl on the podcast.
Carl's got a new line of hoodies.
He's in the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And he's got a new entrepreneurial endeavor that he's working on.
Which one of those four isn't in the Hall of Fame yet? Is it Jim Marshall?
Jim Marshall's not. Neither is Sutherland, actually. Just Page and Eller.
Just Page and Eller.
Yep. But yeah, so I would interact with them on the field, as we brought them on and off the field. Who you should really get, and I don't know if I could help you with it, but Scott Studwell would be a good guy to sit and chat
I do it
with.
in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Tommy Kramer's another one.
Oh, he's touchable. He's back in Minnesota. Yeah. He might come down and hang with you. He too had a Super Bowl party out at his house with McDaniel. And so he's in town and he's accessible too. All these cats are. Yeah.
Help me out. I don't quite have the reach. And some of these guys you can't actually contact.
Right.
Like I know Johnny Randall is very reachable.
Yeah.
But you can't message him. I need to know somebody who's got a personal phone number.
Right.
Hit up Johnny Randall for me.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, that's another dude I need to have on the podcast because he will sit down here and smoke some cigars and drink some whiskey with
me. Right. I got it.
Oh, don't kick it.
I had to kick it. I had to get it close to my hand.
Yeah, because I know Johnny Randall will sit down here, drink some whiskey and smoke some cigars with me. Johnny Randall's a bad motherfucker. I love that dude. I think he's probably my favorite Viking of all time. I think it is officially Johnny Randall. That would have changed throughout the years. For a long time it was Chris Carter. But Chris Carter post-Vikings, Chris Carter's kind of a douche.
Yeah.
like he's kind of a douche, dude. And now he's on Good Morning Football on NFL Network. He replaced Nate Burleson.
Yep.
I'm not feeling it, man.
Nate's over at CBS.
Yep.
Yeah. He's their Strahan. CBS's Strahan.
He's good.
Yeah, he is. He's really good.
Nate Burleson's really good. There's something weird about Chris Carter. He's got kind of a Stephen A. Smith vibe, which to me, it's a smug. It's a smugness. And it's very off-putting.
Yeah.
Like, especially when they're wrong. It'd be different if they were always right. When they pull that little character out of the closet, when they're asserting something that's actually fact and reliably true, and only every once in a while gets proven wrong. But the problem is they say shit like that, and it's like regularly wrong, or it's just completely an opinion, and it's like, man, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit, dude.
Yeah. Well, Scott Studwell, I think, is retired from the Vikings, so he might have some time. But I tell you, my best day with him was, that when them old veterans get together, they don't see each other often, so they get in good conversations. And Scott used to work for the Vikings, so and of course, my job is when the ceremony's over, we got to move all these guys off the field to get the game going again. And I'll never forget kind of coming up to Scott and whoever he was talking with and kind of grabbed him by the arm, and he turned around and gave me those Scott Studwell eyes. Looked me right in the eye like, who the hell are you? What the hell are you doing? And all I could do was say, wow, thanks, man. That was awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. He had them eyes, man. Serious eyes.
Oh, fuck.
And I was happy to say I got him face to face.
Yeah, if you guys got questions, man, I don't know why that just popped up and said thank you. That's not what I meant to do. I did not mean to press thank you. Was that my cigar? Did I press thank you with my cigar?
Nothing wrong with thanking the audience. All right, guys, throw your questions.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell them.
That's us.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, we can always end this in the 2:00 hour when it comes to an end. That would be very appropriate on this.
What, you want to end it at 2:59?
At 2:59.
It's already 2:27, so we're not ending it at 2. That's not an option.
No, I know. At 2:00 hour, that was going to be the hour for fun.
So the 2:59 mark is we have to stop at 2:59. Got it.
Well, that would be appropriate. That would wind out the two.
Noted. Noted.
But you know me, I'm a talker, and I'll go as long. You're a talker too. You wanted to do 5 hours, I think.
No, I said we'll just wrap at no later than 4.
Oh,
because then I can get out and start working and shit. Because I got a snow blowing. I got to do shit.
And there's a blizzard going on.
Yeah,
right
that's
now,
what I'm saying. I got work to do. So I was like, yeah, if you show up at fucking 10:45, 11 o'clock, we can start at noon, wrap up around 3. Get out of here no later than 4, and that still gives me all night to actually get my shit done because I got to go over the rental properties and fucking take care of them too.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I wish my mom would run it a little bit different so we could just pay other people to do it and free up my time, but that's not their model.
It's hard to find that right person.
They love depending on free labor. My parents love free labor.
Well, of course, everybody does. That's what slavery was all about.
Did you just call me a slave?
No, the philosophy of free labor.
Did you just say my mom made me her slave?
Well, your family, so it
Listen up, Mom. You fucking taskmaster.
Just don't make me whip you, boy.
Listen up, Mom.
Make me get to whipping. But yeah, that's the fundamental basis of that issue is free labor. If you had a business and you had 25 to 40 employees and you didn't have to pay them,
no, it's my duty.
How fast
it's
is
my
your
duty
equity
as a son. It's my duty as a son. And
right.
if I had,
and it's a family business,
well, not really, because I'm not making any money. But if I had my own fuck you money, I would just pay somebody else to do it for me, because that would also be my duty, is to just make sure that the things are met. And since I can't afford to pay other people to do it for me, I got to go over there and do it, because that's my job as a son and as a man. Period.
Yeah, or you can find somebody who lives in the neighborhood that might do that work. Would be the beginning of that process. So they're close and they're cheap.
Never.
Yeah, we had a good guy, but he passed away. Old Mike Smith was our guy. He was, you could always just send him over there. What's going on? And he damn near fix anything.
Yeah,
those are good people to have.
Yeah, you gotta pay them though, man.
Yeah, you do. You do. Of course, you do.
Everybody deserves to get paid, man. Or at least do some sort of collaboration, right? Ooh, there's the buzzword from earlier, the new NFL buzzword.
Yeah. Well, there's always collaboration. I mean, you can't do anything without collaboration. You just don't want obstacles thrown in your way, like the minority owner of the who intervenes and alters what should happen.
Right.
And that's power and control. Those are power and control issues. And
I refuse to believe that Kwesi, I don't know how you say his name, an analytics guy, is gonna not pick the most powerful analytic of all time, which is one of the greatest winning records in the history of high-level football. What Jim Harbaugh has done, that's the greatest analytic of all time. That's one of those things where it's like, no, hire this guy and then just get out of his way.
Yeah.
Let's get him good players. He'll figure out how to win.
Exactly. And he's a guy that would turn things around in a year or two, where now we have to wait 4 or 5 years.
Maybe. Who knows? This might be a Zach Taylor situation, from the Bengals. Perpetually 500 at best. Arguably a diseased organization since the early 90s, right? After fucking Boomer left. Remember that? Boomer Esiason and fucking, what's his name who does the broadcasting? God, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. I love that guy. Wide receiver, white dude. Chris Collinsworth.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking of. Because they went to 2 Super Bowls in the 80s, lost both of them to the 49ers, right?
Yep.
Boomer Esiason retires in the early 90s, along with Chris Collinsworth, and the Bengals have been a diseased organization ever since, including when Marvin Lewis and Mike Zimmer were there. They were still perpetually 500.
Right. All
of a sudden, Zach Taylor gets there, gets the right roster combination, boom, takes them to a Super Bowl. That could be us in a year or two.
I like that quarterback. What do you think of Deshaun Watson as a quarterback?
You got to pull that mic back.
What do you think about Deshaun Watson?
Pull the mic with you. When you go back, pull the mic back.
Possibly coming to the Minnesota Vikings.
I am not a Deshaun Watson fan because I think there's character issues. I don't dispute the athleticism. I don't dispute his winning attitude, but I think there's character issues. His refusal to play because he was upset with ownership for trading DeAndre Hopkins and getting rid of Bill O'Brien. I'm sorry, dude, you're living the dream. You're living the dream. You're under contract to play.
Do what
you need to go out there and play. It's not even do what you're told. It's not even shut up and play. It's do your job.
But you should want to do that.
Well, and if you're supposed to be the leader of the team, what kind of example are you setting by throwing a protest because you didn't get your way and you're not happy with the situation? How are any of your other teammates now going to turn around and look to you when they're unhappy and not getting what they want to? I don't like it. Plus the sexual assault allegations, sexual misconduct allegations. Those things are alarming to me. It's a distraction. We kind of went through that with Brett Favre here. I don't need a distraction. Same thing with the Kyler Murray rumors. How in the playoffs when they were getting smoked by the Rams, I believe it was, he basically quit on the team with like a minute or two going. There's on record, Colt McCoy's like, hey man, you need to go in and finish the game with your teammates.
Right.
And he's like, nah, I'm done. Fuck that, I'm done.
Individually.
Yeah, I'm not down with this. I'm not into it. So
no I in team.
Here's what I want. Trade Kirk Cousins to anybody that'll take him and I don't care if you only get a 3rd or a 4th round pick for him. Get rid of him, get rid of his contract, and give me Gardner Minshew as my bridge backup quarterback to get me through. And don't go draft a quarterback just for the sake of taking one this year in the 1st round.
Well, if there's a good, tall quarterback.
I don't think there is.
Well, what about the Packers? They always seem to groom good quarterbacks. Who's the number 2? Can we go get him?
Jordan Love? No, it's not. Anything. I don't think he's good anyways, but it sounds like this is one of the weakest drafts in a long time for quarterbacks.
Okay.
So I think you go get a guy like a Gardner Minshew because I do think he's fucking got that big dick energy. Like, he doesn't give a shit. He's like a gunslinger, he's a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
And that's who I want. Go get me Gardner Minshew. I'll take a year or 2 with him until you draft and groom a guy. And who knows? Maybe we have Kellen Mond. Maybe we already have the guy. But I don't want to throw him into the Lion's den.
Yeah.
just for the sake of doing it. So that's what specifically I would want to see happen. Trade Cousins, take whatever you can get, and then go get me Gardner Minshew. And like I said, I don't care if you have to draft 3 quarterbacks per draft. Just don't do it this year for the sake of doing it, because I just don't think unless you go with a late round guy and you want to groom him. If you're going to go grab a guy in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, maybe another one in the 6th or 7th, fine. But it sounds like there's some other players in this draft that are like generational type talents, including a corner they call the Sauce. He plays for Cincinnati.
Yeah,
he's a bad man. He's a bad man.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they go grab that corner. I think he's like 6'3" or some shit like that.
Well, that's
lanky
nice.
kid.
Yeah. We'll have to see what's happening. I got one last weekend of ice fishing. I haven't been ice fishing for a while.
Yeah, me neither.
Hope
I gotta
to get up this weekend. Try to find me a little walleye. Of course, my first walleye out of the box in 2022 was a 22-inch walleye.
You got a pop-up ice house? Or do you just go
my
with
buddy's
people?
got ice castles, so I go chill with them.
Where are they fishing at?
Up in Forest Lake.
That's
Yeah. Pretty
not too bad.
successful.
That's pretty
Nope,
close.
not too far.
You're going this weekend?
Yeah. I missed the last 3 weekends.
Yeah. I need to get I haven't been ice fishing in years, man. Dude, I just don't have the time.
Right.
And then when I was a musician, and it's like, it's hard, man. Because weekends that's my prime time to go fucking do shows and shit.
Right. Have you been busy doing shows?
No.
Yeah,
no.
that's the
I've
whole
been
thing.
going to shows.
That's the whole thing.
I've been going to other people's shows, but I don't like my own drumming on my own music. I like my drumming. If you're writing the music and you need a drummer, I can write some dope shit. But I am not good for my own music as a drummer, and it's preventing me from getting this album track. Like I think my drums are just boring. Like they seem very boring to me. Even when I like try to go crazy and make them all complicated, they just seem like they suck.
Oh.
Maybe I'm being overcritical, but
they're a big part of the music, but
yeah. That's why I haven't finished my album still.
It'll get there in its due time.
I'm getting close, but I'm still holding out hope that some fucking dope ass drummer will be like, dude, I like it, I want to do it. And then what they actually do is better than what I have. Because I've had some good drummers want to do it, but what they want to like reinvent it, go a different direction. I'm like, that's not at all what I have in my head, and I'm not interested.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to find people who think just like us. And everybody puts their own stamp on things. They certainly do. We're a creative being as human beings.
To the listeners out there, I want to know, while we've been on the podcast, did Aaron Rodgers announce his retirement? I'm very curious about that. Did Aaron Rodgers retire while we've been on air? You guys should just be able to look it up real quick on Twitter or something. Shouldn't be too difficult.
Got a number out there? How many people are listening? 4?
A handful, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
That's not too bad for midday on a tiny podcast like this. We don't have at most, I think the most we've ever had watching at once is like 20 people.
All right.
And those are usually when we're getting fucking super drunk on like a Saturday night. It's me and 3 or 4 dudes down here just getting
I did have
up.
a couple beers I was going to bring for the 2:00 hour, but I left them on the counter.
Oh, I'm almost glad, dude. I'm not trying to drink today. I got too much shit to do. If I start drinking midday, I'm not getting anything done unless I'm outside and I'm drinking midday as I'm already doing shit. Then I can fucking drink light beers and keep rocking all night.
Right.
But no, if I'm sitting down here on a podcast and I have 2-3 beers, I'm not getting a goddamn thing done the rest of that day. I just can't do it. I don't know how somebody like Bert Kreischer is able to do that. Like have a couple beers and just keep rocking.
Yeah.
Well,
in our youth, it's much easier. When we're younger,
pull it back to you.
In our youth, it's much easier.
You don't have to lean forward. Pull it back. It's movable.
Yeah.
Get comfortable and pull it back to you.
Oh, my back is getting old.
That's why I say pull the mic back so you don't have to be uncomfortable.
There you go.
Yeah. And then just keep it a few fingers from your mouth. There you go.
Choo-choo.
Is that more comfortable?
Yep.
We're going to wrap up soon anyway, so it's not like it really matters.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we just wrap this up? We only got a few minutes left. Fuck it. I don't see any more questions piling in, so
Sounds good.
unless you
No.
got anything else you want to cover.
Actually, no, we're good. We're good. We'll have to find a time to get back together again. You know, the Virgin Whores are playing, I think, next week over at over there by Lickle Lyle's over there off Franklin and Lindale. What's that bar over there?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Have to go check them out.
I know my buddy Chilton is taking over the Skywind, or not the Skywind. that's my other friend's band's name. The Skyway. I think it's the Skyway.
Oh yeah.
I think it's the Skyway. My buddy's taking over one of these venues, and they're booking some shit. I don't know how much they're doing like hip hop or like rock. I know they're really focused on metal. But we might be doing something pretty cool here pretty soon. I'm not trying to talk about my future plans anymore. I feel like I did too much hyping.
Well, that
I want
whole
to just stay silent and just
that
execute.
whole downtown Minneapolis has been tore up for so long. You know, it's been hard to do anything down there. I think they're finally finished with that Hennepin Avenue, but it's just been a shitstorm for a long time.
Very true. Very true.
I can't believe how long it took for them to do that work down there. I mean, probably longer than the 35W project, which was a 4-year project.
Yeah, you got a point.
So, yeah.
Right.
Well,
let's
hey,
wrap this up, man. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Like, subscribe, share. You know the drill. You guys know what's up. Otherwise, yeah, we'll fucking see. I'm not sure when my next podcast is, whether it's... I don't think it's this Thursday. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Follow me on social media if you want. Everything's Jared Singer Live. Love you guys. Oh, wait. I gotta mute it all. Here we go.